A Werewolf Romance, written by Georgina Anderson. Prologue. The first time Raina understood she was worthless, she was 7 years old. She'd been playing in the forest at the edge of Packlands, pretending the twisted oak roots were the great halls she'd heard about in stories, the places where important wolves gathered, where her father sat in judgment, where decisions were made. She'd crowned herself with a circlet of wildflowers and declared pronouncements to an audience of beetles and birds. When she returned home, her flower crown sat crooked on her dark hair, petals crushed from her running. Her mother stood in the doorway of their small cottage, face carved from stone. Behind her, her father's bulk filled the frame like a thundercloud. "Where have you been?" Her mother's voice was flat. Not worried. Not relieved. Just empty. Playing in the slap came so fast Raina didn't see it. She only felt the explosion of pain across her cheek, tasted copper on her tongue, where her teeth cut the inside of her mouth. The flower crown tumbled to the dirt. "You don't play," her mother said, each word precise and cutting. "You're not a child who gets to play. Do you understand me?" Raina's wolf whimpered inside her, confused and hurt. She touched her stinging cheek. "But I am a child. You're wolfless," her father said from the doorway. His voice was worse than her mother's. Not empty, but full of disgust, like she was something rotting he'd found in his boot. "You're a defect, an embarrassment. The goddess made a mistake when she gave you to us, and you will not compound that mistake by drawing attention to yourself. Wolfless." She'd heard the word before, whispered by the other children when they shifted for the first time, and she couldn't. She'd heard it from the healers who examined her, from the elders who shook their heads. But hearing it from her father's mouth made it real in a way nothing else had. "But my wolf is here," she whispered, pressing a hand to her chest where she could feel her wolf's presence, small and frightened. "I can feel her. She talks to me. She's just quiet." Her father descended the steps. He was Alpha of the Iron Claw pack, tall and broad, scarred from 100 battles. When he looked down at her, his eyes were the color of winter ice. "If you had a wolf, you would shift," he said. "Every pup shifts by 6 years old. You are 7. You are wolfless, and you are nothing. Do you understand? In this pack, you are less than the Omega, less than the hunter's dogs. You are a burden we bear because the goddess cursed us with you." Something inside Raina cracked. Not broke, not yet, but cracked like river ice at the first thaw. "Now get inside," her mother said. "And don't let me catch you playing again. Wolfless girls don't get to play. They work, and they stay silent, and they try very, very hard not to remind anyone they exist." Raina bent and picked up her flower crown. Half the petals had fallen off. The rest hung limp and broken. Her mother plucked it from her hands and crushed it beneath her heel. "Inside. Now." That night, Raina lay in her small bed, not in the room with her younger sister, who'd shifted at 5 years old, but in the storage closet that had been cleared out for her, and touched her bruised cheek. Her wolf pressed close inside her, radiating confusion and hurt. "Why don't they love us?" her wolf whispered. Raina didn't have an answer. But she learned over the years that followed that love was for wolves who mattered. For wolves who could shift, who could hunt, who could fight. Love was for her sister, who shifted beautifully into a silver wolf and was doted on by their parents. Love was for the pack's warriors, for the strong and the useful. Love was not for Raina. By the time she was 10, she'd stopped expecting kindness. By 12, she'd stopped hoping her wolf would emerge. By 15, she'd learned to make herself small and quiet, to do her work without complaint, to bear the insults and the casual cruelty with a bowed head and silent acceptance. She learned that she was worthless. She learned that she was nothing. She learned that this was all she would ever be. And then, on a cold morning 2 weeks after her 18th birthday, everything changed. Her father summoned her to his study, a room she'd been in perhaps 3 times in her entire life, and told her she was being sent away. Not as punishment, as payment. The Shadow Fang Pack to the north had agreed to an alliance, and their Alpha had requested an Omega bride to seal the agreement. "You should be grateful," her father said, not looking at her. "Alpha Kieran could have refused when he learned you were wolfless. Most would have, but he's unconventional. He accepted anyway." Her mother stood by the window, arms crossed. "Try not to embarrass us more than you already have. Do what he tells you. Keep your head down. With luck, he'll forget about you after the mating bond is sealed." Raina stood very still. Her wolf, silent for so long, stirred with something that might have been hope, or might have been fear. "When do I leave?" she asked quietly. "Tomorrow at dawn," her father said. "A Shadowfang escort is already en route. You'll be wed within a week of your arrival." He finally looked at her then, and for just a moment, so brief she might have imagined it, something flickered in his eyes. Not love, not even affection, but perhaps regret? Then it was gone. "Dismissed," he said, turning back to the papers on his desk. Raina left the study and walked through the pack house, where she'd never been welcome, past the family who'd never wanted her, toward the small closet room where she'd spent 18 years learning she was nothing. Tomorrow she would leave this place forever. Tomorrow her life would change. She just didn't know yet whether it would be for better or for worse. Her wolf stirred inside her, pressing close. "Maybe this time," her wolf whispered, "someone will see us." Raina touched her chest, feeling the steady beat of her heart beneath her palm. Maybe. But she'd learned long ago not to hope too hard. Hope, like love, was for wolves who mattered. And Raina had never mattered at all. Chapter 1. The Journey North. The Shadow Fang escort arrived precisely at dawn, as promised. Raina stood in the courtyard with a single worn pack slung over her shoulder. Everything she owned in the world fit into one bag, and even that was mostly empty. And watched 3 massive wolves materialize from the morning mist, like legends made flesh. They were enormous. Easily twice the size of the largest Ironclaw warriors. Their fur was dark as midnight, silver-tipped like frost on black stone, and their eyes gleamed with an intelligence that made her wolf press close inside her, uncertain whether to be frightened or awed. The center wolf shifted first. Raina had seen dozens of shifts in her life, had watched her sister shift hundreds of times, smooth and graceful as breathing. But she'd never seen anything like this. The wolf's form seemed to blur and flow, shadows and moonlight pouring into human shape. When the shift completed, a woman stood before her, tall and lean, with close-cropped black hair and scars running down her left arm in parallel lines like claw marks. She wore leather armor that had clearly seen battle, and a short sword hung at her hip. "You're Raina?" the woman asked. Her voice was low and rough, but not unkind. "Yes." Raina kept her eyes down, as she'd been taught. Wolfless wolves didn't meet the gaze of their betters. "Look at me." It wasn't a request. Raina lifted her eyes. The woman studied her for a long moment, amber eyes sharp and assessing. Whatever she saw made her mouth tighten. "My name is Thorn. I'm Beta of the Shadowfang Pack. This is Ash." She gestured to a massive male wolf who'd shifted into a mountain of a man with a braided beard. "And Mira." The third wolf, smaller but no less intimidating, remained in wolf form, watching Raina with unsettling focus. "You'll ride with me," Thorn said. "The journey takes 3 days. You'll be safe with us." It seemed an odd thing to promise. When had Raina ever been safe? Her father emerged from the pack house, her mother trailing behind. Neither came close. Neither touched her. Her sister, Lyra, watched from an upstairs window, her silver wolf visible in her eyes. "Beta Thorn," her father said with a nod. "Thank you for making the journey. I trust the route was—" "We need to leave," Thorn interrupted, not bothering with pleasantries. We want to clear Ironclaw territory before nightfall. Something sharp flickered across her father's face. Annoyance, perhaps, or offense at being dismissed so curtly. But he only nodded. Of course. Raina, go with them. No goodbye, no embrace, no last words of advice or comfort. Just dismissal. Raina walked toward Thorn, her pack clutched tight. Her wolf was trembling inside her, not with fear, but with something else. Something Raina was afraid to name. Thorn's hand came to rest on her shoulder, warm and solid. Can you shift? No. The word came out barely above a whisper. Can you run? Yes. Good enough. We'll travel in human form until we're clear of your territory. Then shift. You'll ride on Ash's back. He's the steadiest. Thorn squeezed her shoulder once, then released her. Ready? Raina glanced back at the pack house one last time. Her father had already gone inside. Her mother watched from the doorway, expressionless. Lyra had disappeared from the window. 18 years in this place, and no one cared that she was leaving. I'm ready, Raina said, and found, to her surprise, that she meant it. They walked for hours in silence. Thorn set a brutal pace, but Raina kept up without complaint. She'd spent years hauling water, chopping wood, scrubbing floors. She was stronger than she looked, even if no one had ever noticed. When they finally crossed into neutral territory, Thorn called a halt. We shift here, she said, already pulling off her pack. Ash, you'll carry her. Mira, scout ahead. I'll take rear guard. Wait. Raina's voice came out small. All 3 Shadowfang wolves turned to look at her. She swallowed hard. Why are you being kind to me? Thorn's scarred face softened almost imperceptibly. What? You've been, Raina struggled for words, patient. You waited for me to keep pace instead of leaving me behind. You're protecting me. I don't understand why. Silence stretched between them. Ash and Mira exchanged glances. Finally, Thorn crouched down until she was eye level with Raina. Has anyone told you about Alpha Kieran? No, only that he's unconventional. Thorn's laugh was short and sharp. That's one word for it. Here's what you need to know, Raina. Our Alpha doesn't tolerate cruelty. He doesn't accept bullying. And he sure as hell doesn't let wolves under his protection be treated like shit. She reached out slowly, giving Raina time to pull away, and touched her chin gently. You're Shadowfang now. Even if the bond isn't sealed yet, you're under our protection. Which means you're not worthless, you're not nothing, and you're not going to be treated like you are. Understand? Raina's throat closed. Her eyes burned. She blinked hard, refusing to let the tears fall. I'm wolfless, she whispered. So? So I can't hunt. I can't fight. I can't... Can you think? The question caught her off guard. What? Can you think? Can you learn? Can you work hard? Thorn's amber eyes were fierce. Because that's what matters in Shadowfang. Not whether you were born able to shift. We've got 3 wolves in our pack who can't shift. One of them is our head healer. Another is our best strategist. The third trains our pups. She straightened up. You want to know why we're being kind? Because you're a person, Raina. You deserve kindness. And if anyone in your old pack told you different, they were wrong. Something cracked open inside Raina's chest. That same crack from when she was 7, but deeper now. Wider. Her wolf stirred, tentative and afraid to hope. Maybe, her wolf whispered again. Maybe this time. Thank you, Raina managed. Thorn nodded once, then shifted. Moments later, Raina found herself being lifted onto Ash's broad back. His wolf was even more massive than she'd realized. She had to spread her legs wide just to sit astride him, and his shoulder blades rose on either side of her like mountain peaks. Hold tight, a deep voice rumbled in her mind. Pack bond, she realized. They were letting her hear them even though she wasn't fully pack yet. We're going to run fast, Mira added, her mental voice bright and teasing. Try not to fall off. Ash hates getting blood on his fur. I hate getting blood on my fur because I'm the one who has to clean it, Ash grumbled good-naturedly. Raina clutched Ash's fur with both hands, her pack secured between them. "Ready?" Thorn asked. "Ready," Raina whispered. And then they ran. Raina had never experienced anything like it. The wolves moved through the forest like liquid shadow, faster than she'd ever imagined possible. Trees blurred past. The wind tore at her hair, brought tears to her eyes. Ash's muscles bunched and released beneath her in perfect rhythm, eating up ground with effortless power. And for the first time in her life, Raina felt free. Her wolf sang inside her, wild with joy. This is what we're meant for. Running, moving, belonging to the forest, and the wind, and the, "You okay up there?" Ash's voice interrupted her wolf's ecstatic rambling. "Yes," Raina gasped, and meant it. "This is amazing." She felt his pleasure at her answer, warm and genuine in her mind. They ran until the sun began to set, finally stopping in a small clearing beside a stream. While Thorn and Mira scouted the perimeter, Ash shifted back and helped Raina down. Her legs were shaking. From exertion or emotion, she wasn't sure. But she didn't fall. "You did well," Ash said, his voice as deep in human form as it had been in her mind. Most humans would have fallen off in the first hour. "I'm not human," Raina said automatically, then caught herself. "I mean, I don't shift, but I'm still—" "You're still a wolf," Ash interrupted firmly. "Just because your wolf hasn't figured out how to come out doesn't make you any less pack." He ruffled her hair affectionately, the gesture so casual and kind that Raina's chest ached. "Come on, let's get camp set up before Thorn comes back and yells at us for being slow." "I can hear you," Thorn's voice drifted through the pack bond, dry with amusement. "And I don't yell. I provide constructive criticism at increased volume." "That's literally what yelling is," Mira chimed in. Raina found herself smiling. Actually smiling. When was the last time she'd smiled? That night they sat around a small fire. Thorn produced travel rations from her pack, dried meat, hard cheese, bread that was only slightly stale, and divided them equally. "Here," she said, handing Raina her share. Raina stared at the food. It was the same portion as everyone else. Not scraps, not leftovers. The same. "What's wrong?" Mira asked, tilting her head. "Nothing. Raina swallowed. "Thank you." "For food? Kid, we're not monsters." "Though Ash sometimes smells like one after a long run," Thorn added mentally. "You try running 50 miles and smelling like roses," Ash retorted. Their easy banter, the casual affection in the pack bond, it was so foreign to Raina she almost couldn't process it. In Ironclaw, conversations had been sharp-edged, full of rankings and careful politics. Every word carried weight. Every gesture meant something. Here, they just talked, teased, laughed. "Can I ask you something?" Raina said quietly, when the conversation had lulled. "Of course," Thorn said. "What's he like? Alpha Kieran?" The 3 Shadowfang wolves exchanged glances again. Finally, Thorn spoke. She paused, choosing her words carefully. "He's the best alpha I've ever served. Fair, strong, fiercely protective of his pack. He doesn't tolerate cruelty or injustice, and he doesn't give a damn about tradition if tradition is stupid." She met Raina's eyes across the fire. "But he's also complicated. He's been through things, lost things. He's got scars, Raina. Not just on his body. Will he hurt me?" The question came out before Raina could stop it. "No." Thorn's answer was immediate and absolute. "Never. Kieran would die before he hurt someone weaker than him. But he'll expect things from you. Honesty, effort, courage. He'll push you to be stronger than you think you can be." A slight smile crossed her scarred face. "And he'll probably drive you crazy at least once a day. He has that effect on everyone." "He's good," Ash added simply. "You'll see." "And if he's not good to you," Mira said cheerfully, "we'll kick his ass." "Please don't kick my ass," a new voice said in the pack bond, deeper than ashes, rich with amusement and authority. I've had a long day. All 3 Shadowfang wolves snapped to attention. Even Raina felt the weight of the presence that had just entered the bond, like a storm rolling in. Alpha, Thorn thought, spoke formally. We weren't expecting you to reach out yet. Is everything... Everything's fine. I wanted to check on our guest. A pause. Hello, Raina. Raina's breath caught. He was in her head. The Alpha of Shadowfang, the wolf she was supposed to mate, was in her head, speaking directly to her mind. Hello, she whispered aloud, not sure if she needed to think the words or speak them. You can think them? I'll hear. His mental voice was gentle, careful. How's the journey? Thorn treating you well? She's been kind, Raina thought cautiously. They all have. Good. That's good. Another pause. I know this must be terrifying. Being sent to a strange pack to mate with an alpha you've never met. I want you to know, you're safe here, Raina. I made a promise to your father, but I'm making a promise to you now. I won't force anything. The mating bond, the marriage, all of it will be your choice. If you want to refuse, you can refuse. I'll send you somewhere safe, set you up with resources. You're not trapped. Do you understand? Tears burned Raina's eyes. Her wolf was silent, listening with desperate intensity. Why? Raina thought. Why would you offer me that? You need this alliance. I need an alliance built on mutual respect and willing participants. Not one built on the suffering of a young woman who never asked for any of this. His presence in her mind was warm, steady. You deserve better than being traded like property. So when you get here, we'll talk. Really talk. And then you'll decide what you want. Fair? Raina's hands were shaking. Fair, she whispered aloud. Get some rest. You've got 2 more days of travel. A ripple of amusement. And Thorn? Don't let her fall off Ash tomorrow. She's not going to fall, Thorn protested. Uh-huh. Mira, you're on catch the human duty if needed. I'm not human, Raina thought automatically. Silence for a heartbeat. Then soft and achingly gentle. No, you're not. You're a wolf. Don't let anyone tell you different. His presence faded from the pack bond, leaving Raina feeling both warm and hollowed out. Thorn was watching her with a knowing expression. Told you, she said. He's good. Raina nodded, not trusting her voice. That night she lay wrapped in a borrowed bedroll, staring up at stars visible through the canopy. Her wolf was quiet but present, pressed close inside her. What do you think? Raina asked her wolf. I think, her wolf answered slowly, that maybe we've been wrong about everything. Maybe worth isn't about shifting. Maybe worth is just being. Raina closed her eyes. For the first time in 18 years, she let herself hope. And it didn't hurt quite as much as she'd expected. Chapter 2. Shadowfang Territory. They crossed into Shadowfang lands on the afternoon of the 3rd day. Raina felt the change immediately, not just in the landscape, which grew wilder and more mountainous, but in the energy of the place. The air itself seemed to hum with power, ancient and watchful. The trees grew taller here, their trunks thick as houses, their canopy so dense that the forest floor existed in perpetual twilight. Welcome home, Thorn thought. Spoke, and Raina felt the beta's genuine pleasure at being back in her territory. How much farther? Raina asked, trying not to think about how her legs ached from 3 days of riding, or how her stomach churned with nervousness. Another hour to the main settlement, Ash answered. We'll take you straight to the Alpha's hall. He's waiting. Of course he was. Raina's wolf stirred restlessly. What if he doesn't like us? What if he changes his mind when he sees us in person? What if... Stop, Raina told her firmly. He promised. We have to trust that. We've never been able to trust promises before. I know, but what choice do we have? Her wolf subsided, unhappy but accepting. As they ran deeper into Shadowfang territory, Raina began to see signs of habitation. training grounds where young wolves sparred in both human and wolf form, gardens tended with obvious care, a massive forge where the ring of hammer on anvil echoed through the trees. Everywhere she looked, wolves moved with purpose, working, training, laughing, living. And everywhere she looked, wolves stopped to watch their small group pass. She felt their attention like physical weight, curious, assessing. Some seemed surprised to see a human riding Ash. Others showed recognition. They'd clearly been expecting her. None looked at her with disgust. It was so different from Ironclaw that Raina felt dizzy. Finally, the forest opened into a massive clearing. At its center stood the Alpha's hall, but it was nothing like her father's pack house. This was a true hall, built from enormous logs and stone, with a peaked roof that rose 3 stories high. Carved wolves ran along the support beams, so lifelike they seemed ready to leap down. Smoke rose from multiple chimneys. Light glowed warm through windows made of real glass. It was beautiful. Home, Mira sighed happily. Ash slowed to a walk as they approached the hall's main entrance. A crowd had gathered, 30, maybe 40 wolves in human form, all watching with unconcealed interest. Raina's hands tightened in Ash's fur. There are so many, she thought, trying not to panic. They're curious, Thorn assured her. Not hostile. Just breathe. Ash stopped at the base of wide stone steps leading up to the hall's entrance. Before Raina could figure out how to dismount gracefully, strong hands gripped her waist and lifted her down as if she weighed nothing. She found herself looking up at a tall woman with silver-streaked black hair and kind eyes. "Welcome to Shadowfang," the woman said warmly. "I'm Vera, the head healer. You must be exhausted." I'm fine," Raina stammered. "She's been riding for 3 days straight," Thorn said, shifting back to human form with her usual liquid grace. "She's definitely not fine, probably sore as hell." "I'll prepare a bath and some salve," Vera said immediately. "But first, the Alpha wants to meet her." As if summoned by the words, the hall's massive wooden doors swung open, and Alpha Kieran stepped out. Raina's breath caught. She'd tried to imagine what he'd look like during the 3-day journey. She'd pictured someone large and scarred, maybe cruel-looking despite Thorn's assurances. Someone who would make her wolf cower. She hadn't expected this. Kieran was tall, taller even than Ash, which was saying something, with broad shoulders and a warrior's build. His hair was dark brown, almost black, and long enough to brush his collar. A neat beard covered his jaw. But it was his eyes that caught her. They were gray as storm clouds, and when they locked onto her, Raina felt pinned in place. Not with fear, with awareness. Her wolf surged forward inside her, pressing against her skin with sudden, desperate need. "Him," her wolf breathed. "It's him, our mate, our—" "Careful," Raina warned, even as her own heart raced. "We don't know anything yet." But her wolf wasn't listening. Her wolf was singing, keening, trying to claw her way to the surface for the first time in Raina's life. Kieran descended the steps slowly, his gray eyes never leaving her face. The crowd parted for him without conscious thought, the natural deference of Pact Alpha. When he reached the bottom, he was close enough that Raina had to tilt her head back to meet his gaze. "Raina," he said, and his voice was exactly as it had been in her mind, deep and careful and achingly gentle. "Welcome to Shadowfang." She should curtsy. She should lower her eyes. She should show proper deference to an Alpha. But something in his gaze held her frozen, and she found herself simply staring up at him like a fool. "Thank you for having me," she finally managed. A smile ghosted across his face. "I know you're tired from the journey. Vera will show you to your rooms. Plural, you'll have a suite, not just a single room. You can rest, bathe, eat. And then if you're feeling up to it, I'd like to speak with you privately. No pressure. If you need more time, just tell Vera." Raina swallowed. I can speak with you now, if you'd like. After you've had a chance to rest, Kieran said firmly. I've been told I can be intense, and I don't want to overwhelm you on your first day. He glanced at Thorn. Make sure she has everything she needs. Of course, Alpha. Kieran's eyes returned to Raina. For a moment, something fierce and hungry flickered in their depths, quickly suppressed, but unmistakable. Her wolf whined at the sight of it, wanting more. I'm glad you're here, he said quietly, so quietly that she thought perhaps only she heard it. I'll see you soon. Then he turned and walked back up the steps, disappearing into the hall. Raina released a breath she hadn't known she was holding. Well, Vera said cheerfully, looping an arm through Raina's. That went better than expected. Last time Kieran met someone new, he accidentally made them cry. Come on, dear, let's get you settled. He made someone cry? Raina asked, allowing herself to be led toward a side entrance. Not on purpose. He's very intense when he focuses on people. Poor girl thought she was in trouble. Vera patted her arm. Don't worry. He liked you. I could tell. How could you tell? He smiled. Kieran doesn't smile for just anyone. Behind them, Raina heard the crowd beginning to disperse, their voices carrying in the evening air. She's prettier than I expected. Did you see how the Alpha looked at her? Gods, I thought he was going to... Quiet, he'll hear you. So? Everyone can see he's already halfway made it to her. Did you feel that? The pull between them? Raina's cheeks burned. Vera squeezed her arm sympathetically. Pack gossip, she said. You'll get used to it. We're all incorrigible busybodies here. It comes from caring too much about each other's business. She guided Raina through a side door and up a curved staircase. Here we are. Your suite. She pushed open a door, and Raina stepped into a home, not a closet, not a single room. A suite, as Kieran had promised. There was a sitting area with comfortable chairs arranged around a fireplace. A bedroom beyond visible through an open doorway, with a bed large enough for 3 people. Another door that must lead to a bathing room. Windows with real curtains. Rugs on the floor. Candles already lit, casting warm light. This is mine? Raina whispered. All yours. Vera moved to light more candles. The bed's fresh. There are clothes in the wardrobe. We had to guess your size, but they should fit well enough until we can get you properly measured. I'll have food sent up, and I'll draw that bath now. You'll feel more human once you've soaked those sore muscles. I'm not... Raina caught herself. Thank you. This is too much. Vera turned to look at her, something knowing in her eyes. Let me guess. You're used to less. Raina nodded, not trusting her voice. Well? Vera crossed to her and took both her hands. You're in Shadowfang now, dear. And in Shadowfang, we don't measure people's worth by their ability to shift. We measure it by their character, their effort, and their heart. From what Thorn tells me, you kept pace for 3 days without complaint. That tells me everything I need to know about your character. She squeezed Raina's hands. Now. Bath, food, rest. In that order. The Alpha won't summon you until you're ready. She bustled off to the bathing room, and soon Raina heard water running. Alone for the first time in 3 days, Raina sank into one of the chairs by the fireplace and let herself shake. It's real, her wolf whispered. This is real. They're being kind because they want to, not because they have to. Maybe, Raina thought back, or maybe they're waiting to see if I'm useful before they decide what to do with me. You heard the Alpha. He said we could leave if we wanted. Why would he say that if he planned to mistreat us? Raina didn't have an answer. Vera returned, smiling. Bath's ready. Take your time. I'll leave the food outside the door in about an hour. Gives you time to soak and dress. If you need anything at all, just open the door and ask. Someone's always nearby. Thank you, Raina said. Truly. I don't know how to. No need for thanks. We take care of Pack here. And you're Pack now, whether the bond is sealed or not. Vera headed for the door, then paused. One more thing. The Alpha? He seems intimidating, I know. But he's a good man, Raina. One of the best I've ever known. Give him a chance." Then she was gone, the door clicking shut behind her. Raina sat in the quiet for a long moment. Then she stood, walked to the bathing room, and stopped dead in the doorway. The tub was huge, big enough for 2 people easily, and already filled with steaming water. Soap and oils sat on a small table beside it. Clean towels were stacked nearby. Everything smelled like pine and something floral she couldn't name. When was the last time she'd had a hot bath? She couldn't remember. Raina stripped off her travel-stained clothes and sank into the water with a sigh that might have been a sob. The heat seeped into her aching muscles, washing away 3 days of riding and 18 years of tension. For the first time since she could remember, Raina let herself cry. Not from pain or fear or hopelessness. From relief. An hour later, clean and dressed in soft clothes that fit surprisingly well, Raina sat at the small table in her sitting room and ate the best meal of her life. It wasn't fancy. Just roasted meat, vegetables, bread with real butter, and a slice of berry pie. But it was hers, prepared for her, given freely without expectation of thanks or payment or groveling. She ate every bite. A knock at the door made her start. "Come in," she called, expecting Vera. Instead, Thorne entered, now dressed in casual clothes rather than her traveling leathers. "Mind if I sit?" "Please." Thorne dropped into the chair across from her with a warrior's economy of movement. "So, what do you think so far?" "It's..." Raina searched for words. "Different. Better. I'm still waiting for it to turn bad." "Fair enough. Trust is earned, not given." Thorne leaned forward, elbows on her knees. "I'm here in my official capacity as Beta to brief you on pack politics before you meet with Kieran. There are things you should know." Raina set down her fork, suddenly nervous again. "What kind of things?" "First, the alliance. Your father approached us 6 months ago. He needed support. Ironclaw's been having border disputes with 2 smaller packs, and he wanted backup. Normally, we wouldn't care. Border disputes are common, and Ironclaw isn't exactly known for treating their neighbors fairly." Thorne's expression darkened. But Kieran saw an opportunity. If we could absorb Ironclaw into a larger alliance, we could stabilize the region. So he agreed, with conditions. What conditions? That any alliance would require good faith, a marriage bond between packs. Your father offered you. Thorne's eyes were sharp. Kieran researched you before accepting. Found out you were wolfless, that you were treated like, well, like shit. He could have refused, could have demanded a different bride. Instead, he saw it as a test. A test? Of your father's character. If your father was willing to trade away his daughter knowing she'd be going to a strange Alpha, that told Kieran everything he needed to know about Ironclaw's leadership. Thorne's smile was sharp as a blade. Your father failed that test, by the way. But you passed. I didn't do anything. You survived. That's not nothing. Thorne sat back. Here's what you need to know about Kieran. 5 years ago, his father was Alpha. Good man, but old-fashioned. Believed in tradition, hierarchy, all that. Then a rival pack attacked. Killed Kieran's father and mother in a single night. Kieran was 23. He took over a grieving, angry pack and had to lead them through the aftermath. Raina's chest ached. That's terrible. It gets worse. The rival pack claimed it was justified because Kieran's father had broken some ancient treaty, which was bullshit, but other packs believed it. Shadowfang was isolated. We had to rebuild, had to prove ourselves. Kieran did it, but it changed him, made him harder, more protective. He won't tolerate weakness in leadership, and he won't let anyone under his protection be hurt. Ever. So when my father sent me, Kieran saw a chance to judge your father's character and potentially save you from a bad situation. 2 birds, 1 stone. Thorne stood. He's going to ask if you want the bond. Be honest with him. He values honesty above everything. If you say yes, he'll honor that bond with everything he has. If you say no, He'll still protect you. Either way, you're safe here. And if I don't know what I want? Then tell him that too. Thorn moved toward the door. He's waiting in his study. 3rd floor, end of the hall. Go whenever you're ready. She left, and Raina was alone again with her thoughts. Her wolf was restless, pacing. I want to see him. I want to know if what we felt was real. I want that too, Raina admitted. But I'm scared. Of course you're scared. You've spent your whole life being hurt. But maybe... Her wolf's voice was soft, tentative. Maybe this time will be different. Raina stood, smoothing her borrowed clothes. She caught sight of herself in a mirror near the door and stopped. She looked different. Clean, yes. But also less hunched, less small. The girl in the mirror stood straighter than she had in years. We're not worthless, her wolf whispered. They're showing us we're not. Maybe it's time we believed it. Maybe, Raina whispered back. She opened the door and headed for the stairs. Time to meet her fate. Chapter 3. The Alpha's Study. The walk to Kieran's study felt like miles, even though it was only 2 flights of stairs and a single hallway. Raina passed several wolves on the way. Some nodded to her, others smiled. One young woman actually waved cheerfully, and each interaction made her feel more off balance. In Ironclaw, lower-ranked wolves avoided eye contact with anyone above them. Here, everyone seemed friendly. She reached the door at the end of the hallway. Heavy oak, carved with the same running wolves that decorated the hall's exterior. No guards, no sense of threat. Just a door. Raina raised her hand to knock, then hesitated. What if he's disappointed? She thought. What if seeing me up close, without the crowd watching, makes him realize he made a mistake? Then we'll deal with it, her wolf answered firmly. But we won't know unless we knock. Raina knocked. Come in. Kieran's voice, muffled by the door but still carrying that note of quiet authority. She pushed the door open and stepped inside. The study was smaller than she'd expected. Not a throne room or a grand chamber, just a comfortable workspace. Bookshelves lined 2 walls, packed with volumes that looked well read. A fireplace crackled cheerfully. A large desk sat near the window, covered in papers and maps. And behind that desk, Kieran stood with his back to her, looking out at the darkening forest beyond. Close the door, he said without turning. Raina did, her heart hammering. Kieran turned to face her, and the breath left her lungs. In the fading daylight, with the fire casting shadows across his face, he was devastating. Not classically handsome. His nose had been broken at least once, and a scar ran along his jawline, but compelling in a way that made her wolf whine with need. Sit, he said, gesturing to a chair near the fire. Please. She sat, grateful for something to do with her shaking legs. Kieran didn't return to his desk. Instead, he took the chair across from her, putting them at eye level, removing the barrier of the desk, and leaned forward with his elbows on his knees. I'm going to be direct, he said. Is that all right? Yes. Good. His gray eyes held hers. I know what your father told you. That this is a marriage to seal an alliance. That you're here to be my Omega bride. But I need you to understand something, Raina. I don't want an Omega. I don't want someone who will bow and scrape and exist to serve me. If that's what you were told to expect, forget it now. Raina blinked. Then, what do you want? A partner. The word was simple, but weighted with meaning. Someone who will stand beside me, not behind me. Someone I can trust, who can trust me. Someone who will call me on my bullshit when I need it, and support me when I'm struggling. That's what a mate bond should be. Equals, not master and servant. But I'm wolfless, Raina said, the old shame rising. I can't hunt. I can't fight. I can't... You can think. You can learn. You can survive. Kieran's voice was firm. Thorn tells me you kept pace for 3 days without complaint, even though you were sore and probably terrified. That takes strength. Not the kind that shows in shifted form, but the kind that matters more. He paused. And for what it's worth, I don't give a damn that you're wolfless. My best strategist can't shift. Neither can my head healer. A wolf's value isn't determined by whether they can change shape. Raina's throat was tight. Everyone else thinks it does. Everyone else is wrong. He said it with such flat certainty that she almost believed him. Here's what I'm proposing. You stay here for a month. No bond, no pressure, no expectations. You learn about Shadowfang. You meet the pack. You decide if you can see yourself here. At the end of the month, we'll talk again. If you want the bond, we'll seal it. If you don't, I'll set you up somewhere safe with enough resources to start over. Your choice entirely. And the alliance with my father? Kieran's expression went cold. Your father gets nothing either way. I agreed to consider an alliance. After researching how Ironclaw treats its people, especially you, I've decided Ironclaw isn't worthy of Shadowfang's support. His eyes met hers again, softer. This isn't about politics anymore, Raina. It's about you. What you want. What you need. What you deserve. Her wolf was singing, practically vibrating with joy. He means it. He's offering us a choice. A real choice. Why? Raina whispered. Why would you do this for me? You don't know me. Because no one should be forced into a bond they don't want. Because you deserve better than being traded like property. And because... He paused, something vulnerable flickering across his face. Because from the moment I saw you in the courtyard, my wolf recognized you as mate. Not Omega. Not bride. Mate. Equal. Partner. Mine. The word hung between them, possessive and protective in equal measure. But that doesn't mean you have to accept, Kieran continued quickly. Just because my wolf chose you doesn't obligate you to choose me back. The bond has to be mutual, or it's worthless. So I'm giving you time, space, freedom to decide without pressure. His mouth quirked in a half smile. Even if it kills me to wait. Raina stared at him. At this Alpha who could have demanded anything, taken anything, but instead was offering her choice. Can I ask you something? She said. Anything. The rival pack that killed your parents. Did you ever get revenge? His expression darkened. Yes. How? I challenged their Alpha to single combat. Killed him. His son took over, and we brokered a peace treaty. Kieran's voice was flat, recounting facts. It didn't bring my parents back. Didn't make me feel better. But it protected my pack, which was all that mattered. Do you regret it? The killing? No. He deserved death for what he did. But I regret that it was necessary. He tilted his head. Why do you ask? Because I want to know if you're the kind of man who kills for sport, or the kind who kills to protect. There's a difference. Something flared in Kieran's eyes. Surprise, maybe. Or respect. You're right. There is a difference. I'm the latter. He leaned back slightly. What else do you want to know? Raina thought for a moment. If I stay the month and decide I want the bond, what would that mean? Practically, you'd be Luna, Alpha female, equal rank to me. You'd share my rooms, my responsibilities, my life. You'd help lead the pack, which means settling disputes, making strategic decisions, and ensuring everyone's cared for. It's not easy work, but you wouldn't do it alone. I'd be beside you every step. And if the bond forms, and it doesn't work, if we can't stand each other, then we'd figure it out together. Mate bonds are strong, but they're not slavery. We'd both have to work at it, compromise, communicate. If it truly became unbearable, we could... He grimaced. It's rare, but bonds can be broken. It would hurt like hell, possibly literally. But it's possible. Raina appreciated his honesty. And physically? What would you expect? Kieran's jaw tightened. I won't touch you until you want me to. When and if you do, we'll take it at your pace. The bond will create urges, needs. But I'm not an animal. I can control myself. His eyes were intense. You'll never have to fear me, Raina. Not in that way or any other. Her wolf was practically purring. He respects us. He wants us but won't force it. This is what we always needed. 1 month, Raina said slowly. I stay. Learn about Shadowfang. And then decide. Exactly. And during that month you won't try to influence my decision? Seduce me or manipulate me or... I'll be myself, Kieran interrupted. Which means I'll probably be an overbearing ass sometimes and a workaholic most of the time. I'll ask how you're settling in and whether you need anything. I'll probably stare at you more than is strictly polite because you're beautiful, and my wolf is already half feral with wanting you. But I won't manipulate you. You'll see me exactly as I am. Flaws included. And then you'll decide if that's someone you can build a life with. Beautiful. He'd called her beautiful. No one had ever called her that before. Okay, Raina heard herself say. I'll stay the month. Kieran's smile was like sunrise. Slow, warm, transformative. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. I might decide you're impossible. And leave. That's your right. He stood, and she stood with him. He was so close now, close enough that she could smell him. Pine and leather, and something uniquely male that made her wolf whine. Sleep well tonight, Raina. Tomorrow, Vera will give you a tour of the settlement. The day after, we'll discuss what role you might want to explore while you're here. Everyone contributes in Shadowfang, but you get to choose how. Everyone contributes, Raina repeated. Even you? Especially me. Being Alpha doesn't mean sitting on a throne and issuing orders. It means working harder than anyone else to make sure the pack thrives. He moved toward the door, clearly intending to walk her back to her room. But Raina didn't move. Kieran? He turned back. Yes? Can I ask one more thing? Of course. Will you tell me about them? Your parents? Something softened in his face. Why? Because if I'm going to understand you, I should know where you came from. What made you who you are? She swallowed. And because I never knew what it was like to have parents who loved me. I'd like to hear about parents who did. Kieran was silent for a long moment. Then he returned to his chair and gestured for her to sit again. And he talked. He told her about his father, a fierce warrior who'd been gentle with his son, who'd taught Kieran that strength meant protecting those weaker, not dominating them. He told her about his mother, clever and kind, who'd managed the pack's resources and settled disputes with patience and wisdom. He told her about the night they died, how he'd been away at a neighboring pack when the attack came, how he'd returned to find them gone, and the pack in chaos. He told her about the year that followed, the grief, the rage, the desperate struggle to hold everything together. And Raina listened, her heart aching for this man who'd lost so much and still managed to be kind. When he finally stopped talking, the fire had burned low and the moon was high. I'm sorry, Raina said softly, for your loss, for what you went through. Thank you. Kieran's voice was rough. Not many people ask about them. I think everyone's afraid to remind me. Maybe they think you've forgotten, but I don't think you can forget people you loved that much. No, he agreed. You can't. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Kieran stood. Come on. I'll walk you to your room. You need sleep. This time Raina let him lead her to the door. They walked through the quiet halls together, not touching, but close enough that she could feel the heat of him. Other wolves they passed bowed their heads to Kieran, but several smiled at Raina, genuine, welcoming smiles. When they reached her door, Kieran stopped. Thank you, he said, for listening, for giving this a chance, for being braver than you probably feel. I'm not brave. You're terrified, and you're doing it anyway. That's the definition of brave. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and tucked a strand of her dark hair behind her ear. His fingers were warm, calloused. "Sleep well, Raina." Then he turned and walked away, leaving her standing in the hallway with her heart racing and her wolf singing. Raina entered her rooms and closed the door, leaning against it. "Well?" her wolf asked eagerly. "What do we think?" "I think," Raina answered slowly, "that maybe we're in trouble. Good trouble or bad trouble?" Raina thought about Kieran's smile, his gentleness, the way he'd offered her choice when he could have demanded obedience. "I don't know yet," she admitted, "but I'm willing to find out." Her wolf's joy was answer enough. That night, for the first time in years, Raina slept deeply and didn't dream of being worthless. She dreamed instead of gray eyes and gentle hands, and the possibility that maybe, just maybe, she could be someone's equal. Someone's choice. Someone's mate. Chapter 4. Learning to Belong. Raina woke to sunlight streaming through her windows and the scent of fresh bread. For a confused moment she thought she'd overslept, that her mother would be furious, that there would be consequences. Then she remembered. She wasn't in Ironclaw anymore. She sat up slowly, her muscles protesting. 3 days of riding had left her sore in places she hadn't known could be sore. But the bed was soft, the room was warm, and no one was pounding on the door demanding she get up and start her chores. A knock came, gentle, not demanding. "Come in," Raina called, pulling the blanket up self-consciously. Vera entered with a tray. "Good morning. I thought you might be hungry. How are you feeling?" "Sore," Raina admitted. "But good. Better than I expected. The soreness will fade in a day or two. I've brought you willow bark tea. It'll help with the aches." Vera set the tray on the small table. "Eat up, we've got a busy day ahead." The tray held more food than Raina usually ate in 2 days. Fresh bread with honey, eggs, sliced fruit, cheese. The willow bark tea steamed gently in a clay mug. "This is too much," Raina said automatically. "Nonsense. You're still recovering from the journey, and you're too thin besides. Eat." Vera's tone brooked no argument. "When you're done, get dressed. I'll be back in half an hour to start the tour." She left before Raina could protest further. Raina ate slowly, savoring every bite. The bread was still warm from the oven. The honey was sweet and golden. The eggs were perfectly cooked. Each bite felt like a small miracle. Her wolf stirred, content. "We could get used to this." "Don't get too comfortable," Raina warned. "We still don't know if we're staying. But we might. We might actually stay." The thought was both thrilling and terrifying. True to her word, Vera returned exactly half an hour later. She took one look at the empty tray and nodded with satisfaction. "Good girl. Now let's get you properly oriented." The tour took most of the morning. Vera walked Raina through the settlement, pointing out key locations and introducing her to what felt like hundreds of wolves. The training grounds where warriors practiced in both forms. The gardens where food was grown, tended by wolves who couldn't shift, Vera explained, because they had patience and attention to detail that warriors often lacked. The forge where weapons were made. The healer's hall where Vera worked, spacious and well-stocked with herbs. Everywhere they went, wolves greeted Raina with curiosity, but not hostility. Some introduced themselves. Others just smiled and nodded. A few of the younger pups actually waved excitedly. "They're curious about you," Vera explained as they walked. "We don't get many visitors, and everyone knows you're here as a potential mate for the Alpha. You're basically pack royalty already, whether the bond is sealed or not." "I'm not royalty," Raina protested. "I'm just—" "Don't." Vera stopped walking and turned to face her. "Don't diminish yourself. I don't know what they told you in Ironclaw, but here's the truth. You're a wolf who survived 18 years in a pack that treated you like dirt. You kept your dignity, your kindness, and your strength. That makes you extraordinary, Raina. Own it." Raina's throat tightened. "I don't feel extraordinary." "Of course you don't. Extraordinary people never do." Vera resumed walking. "Come on. There's someone I want you to meet." She led Raina to a small cottage at the edge of the settlement. Unlike the other buildings, this one had ramps instead of steps, and the doorway was wider than standard. Vera knocked. "Marcus, you decent?" "Define decent," a cheerful male voice called back. Vera rolled her eyes and pushed the door open. Inside, a man sat at a large table covered in maps and papers. He was perhaps 30, with warm brown skin and clever dark eyes. And he sat in a wheeled chair, his legs clearly paralyzed. "Raina, this is Marcus," Vera said. "Our head strategist and the man who's saved this pack's ass more times than I can count. Marcus, this is Raina." Marcus wheeled himself forward with practiced ease. "The famous Raina. I've heard so much about you. Please, sit. Can I offer you tea?" "I make terrible tea, but Vera brought good pastries." Raina sat, thoroughly confused. You're the head strategist? In the flesh. Well, half of it anyway." Marcus gestured at his legs without self-consciousness. "Lost the use of these about 8 years ago. Hunting accident. Got between a bear and her cubs, which was stupid of me. But turns out I'm better at thinking than fighting anyway. So it worked out." "Marcus plans every major pack operation," Vera said, snagging one of the pastries. "Border patrols, alliance negotiations, resource management. He's brilliant." "I'm adequate with good help," Marcus corrected. "But yes, I do plan things. And I'm showing you this because I want you to understand something about Shadowfang." He leaned forward. "We don't waste wolves. Everyone has value. Everyone contributes. You can't shift? Fine. You can't walk? Fine. You can't see or hear or speak? Fine. We'll find what you're good at and let you excel at it. That's what makes us strong." Raina looked around the cottage. Maps covered the walls, not just of Shadowfang territory, but of the entire region. Detailed notes were pinned everywhere. Books were stacked on every surface. "This is incredible," she whispered. "This is necessity," Marcus said. "I can't patrol borders, so I make sure the wolves who do patrol have the best information possible. I can't fight, so I make sure our fighters never face a battle they can't win." He smiled. "And you? You can't shift, but I guarantee you have skills we need. We just have to figure out what they are." "I don't have skills. I did chores, hauled water, scrubbed floors, prepared food." "So you're strong, detail-oriented, and know logistics." Marcus nodded. "That's 3 valuable skills right there. Did you manage inventory?" "Sometimes, when my mother needed things organized." "Resource management, 4 skills." He was making notes now. "Did you ever have to solve problems? Figure out how to do more with less?" "Every day," Raina said quietly. I was given whatever supplies were left over. I had to make them last. Creative problem solving, 5 skills." Marcus grinned at her. "See? You're more capable than you think. Over the next month, we'll figure out what you enjoy doing and what you're good at. Then we'll find you a role. If you stay, obviously. No pressure." "Everyone keeps saying that," Raina said. "No pressure, but this is all very intense." "Of course it is," Vera said. "You've gone from being treated like nothing to being treated like someone important. That's a hell of an adjustment. But you'll adapt. I've seen it happen before." "With who?" "With me." Raina looked at her in surprise. Vera smiled sadly. "I came from a pack that didn't value healers. They thought we were weak because we didn't fight. When I got here 20 years ago, I could barely look people in the eye. Kieran's father saw my potential, gave me resources, let me build the Healer's Hall from nothing. Now I train the next generation of healers and run one of the best medical facilities in the region. And you know what? I'm not weak. Neither are you." Something eased in Raina's chest. "Thank you," she whispered. "Don't thank me yet. Wait until I'm waking you at dawn for training." Vera stood. "Come on. A few more stops, then lunch." By the time Vera led her to the dining hall for the midday meal, Raina's head was spinning with names and faces and information. The The dining hall was enormous, easily large enough to hold 200 wolves, with long tables arranged in rows. Unlike Ironclaw, where seating was strictly by rank, here wolves sat wherever they wanted. Warriors mixed with crafters. Elders sat with pups. Even Thorn was there, laughing at something Ash said. "Grab a plate," Vera said, gesturing to the serving area. "Take whatever you want. Yes, I mean whatever. No, there's no catch. Just get food and sit down before I push you." Raina got food, though not as much as she wanted, old habits dying hard, and followed Vera to a table where several wolves were already seated. "Everyone, this is Raina," Vera announced. "Raina, this is everyone. Be nice, or I'll give you all the itching powder treatment." "You did that once," one of the wolves protested, "and you all learned not to piss me off." Vera sat down and gestured for Raina to sit beside her. The wolves at the table introduced themselves. There was Finn, a young warrior with an easy grin, his sister Kara, who worked in the gardens, old Torin, who'd apparently been teaching pups for 40 years, and Lissa, quiet and watchful, who Thorn later told her was one of their best scouts. They talked easily, asking Raina questions about her journey, where she was from, what she thought of Shadowfang so far. Not prying questions, just friendly curiosity. And slowly, carefully, Raina began to answer. She told them about the journey north, about riding on Ash's back, about seeing the territory for the first time. She didn't tell them about Ironclaw, about her family, about the years of abuse. Some wounds were too fresh to share with strangers. But she talked, and they listened. And for the first time in her life, Raina felt like she was part of a conversation, not just enduring one. Halfway through the meal, the hall's energy shifted. Raina felt it before she saw the cause, a sudden awareness, like everyone had simultaneously become conscious of something. Conversations didn't stop, but they quieted. Wolves sat a little straighter. Then Kieran entered. He looked different than he had last night, less formal. He wore simple clothes, a dark shirt and worn pants, and his hair was tied back. But there was no mistaking the power that rolled off him, the natural authority that made every wolf in the room aware of his presence. His eyes found Raina immediately. Her wolf surged forward, pleased and eager. "He's looking for us. He came here to see us." Kieran crossed the hall, and Raina realized with growing mortification that he was heading straight for their table. "Vera," he said when he reached them, "mind if I steal Raina for a moment?" "She's not mine to steal," Vera said dryly. "Ask her." Kieran's gaze shifted to Raina. "Would you take a walk with me?" It wasn't really a question. Alphas didn't ask, they commanded. But the way he phrased it gave her the option to refuse. "All right," she said. He smiled, just a small curve of his mouth, but it transformed his face. "Thank you." Raina stood, acutely aware of every eye in the hall watching as she followed Kieran out. They walked through the settlement in silence at first. Kieran kept his hands clasped behind his back, his stride slow enough that she could keep pace easily. "How was the tour?" he finally asked. "Overwhelming, but good. Everyone's been very kind." "I heard you met Marcus. He's..." Raina searched for words. "He's not what I expected." "Few of us are." Kieran led her onto a path that wound into the forest. "Marcus is proof that strength comes in many forms. He can't fight, but he's saved more lives with his strategies than most warriors save with their claws." Vera said something similar, about finding what people are good at. "It's how Shadowfang survives. We don't waste potential." He glanced at her. "That includes yours." "I'm not sure I have potential." "You do. You just haven't been allowed to explore it yet." They walked deeper into the forest, the path narrowing until they had to walk single file. Kieran went first, holding branches aside so they wouldn't hit her. Eventually, the path opened into a small clearing. A stream ran through it, clear and cold. Smooth stones lined the bank, perfect for sitting. "This is one of my favorite places," Kieran said, settling onto one of the larger stones. "I come here when I need to think." Raina sat beside him, careful to leave space between them. Why did you want to talk to me? Because I realized I bombarded you with information last night and didn't give you a chance to process. I wanted to check in, make sure you're all right. Raina paused, considering. I'm confused and overwhelmed, but not in a bad way. More like I don't know how to accept this. Any of this. The kindness, the respect, the food, the rooms. I keep waiting for someone to tell me it's a mistake. It's not a mistake. You say that, but you barely know me. What if I'm terrible? What if I can't do any of the things you need me to do? Kieran was quiet for a long moment. Can I tell you something? Of course. When my parents died, I was terrified. Not just of leading. I'd been trained for that. But of failing. Of not being good enough to fill their shoes. Every decision felt enormous. Every mistake felt fatal. He picked up a smooth stone, turned it over in his hands. Thorne sat me down one day, maybe 6 months after I took over, and she said something I've never forgotten. She said, "You don't have to be perfect. You just have to try, and learn, and keep trying. That's all any of us can do." He set the stone down and looked at Raina. "You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to prove yourself. You just have to be willing to try, to learn, to grow. The rest will come. And if it doesn't, if I try and I still fail, then you'll have failed while being brave enough to try. That's infinitely better than never trying at all." His eyes were intense on hers. "I'm not asking you to be something you're not, Raina. I'm asking you to discover who you actually are, underneath all the shit your old pack piled on you. That's all." Her throat was tight. What if who I actually am isn't very interesting? Kieran's laugh was soft and genuine. "I don't believe that for a second. But if it's true, then you'll be an uninteresting person I respect and care about. I'll take that over an interesting person I can't trust any day." They sat in silence for a while, listening to the stream burble over stones. A bird called somewhere in the canopy. The afternoon sun filtered through the leaves, dappling everything in gold and green. "Can I ask you something?" Raina finally said. "Always. Last night you said your wolf recognized me as mate. What does that mean exactly? How does it work?" Kieran's expression became carefully neutral. "It's complicated. A wolf's recognition of their mate is instinctive. It's a pull, a certainty, a feeling of rightness when you're near them. For me, I saw you, and something inside me just knew. This is my mate. This is my match. This is who I'm supposed to build a life with." "But I didn't feel that," Raina said quietly. "Not the same way. I felt something. Drawn to you, curious. My wolf likes you. But not this huge, overwhelming certainty. That's normal. Recognition isn't always mutual at first. Sometimes one wolf feels it immediately, and the other takes time." He turned to face her more fully. "But here's the important part. Even if you never feel that recognition, it doesn't mean we can't build something real. Plenty of mates don't have instant recognition. They choose each other through respect and trust and shared experiences. That's just as valid. So, you're not waiting for me to suddenly feel this overwhelming mate bond? I'm waiting for you to decide if you want to try building something with me. Bond or no bond. Recognition or no recognition." His voice was firm. "You're not obligated to feel what I feel. Your choice is still your own." Raina studied his face, looking for any sign of deception or hidden expectation. She found none, just patient honesty. "You really mean that?" she said wonderingly. "I really mean that." Her wolf was glowing with happiness. "He respects us. He truly respects us." "Thank you," Raina whispered, "for being patient, for giving me choice." "You deserve choice. You've had so little of it in your life." Kieran stood, offering her his hand. "Come on. I should get back before Thorne sends a search party. She worries when I disappear for too long." Raina took his hand and let him pull her to her feet. His hand was warm and calloused, and he held hers just a moment longer than necessary before releasing it. They walked back to the settlement together, and this time the silence felt comfortable instead of awkward. The days began to blur into a pattern. Mornings with Vera, learning about the healing arts. Raina discovered she had a knack for it, gentle hands, attention to detail, the ability to stay calm in crisis. She helped prepare medicines, learned which herbs did what, assisted with minor injuries. Afternoons were spent with Marcus, learning strategy and resource management. He taught her to read maps, to think 3 steps ahead, to consider problems from multiple angles. She was surprised to find she enjoyed it. The puzzle-solving aspect, the satisfaction of finding elegant solutions. Evenings, she often ate with different groups of wolves, learning names and stories. Finn the warrior told terrible jokes that somehow always made her laugh. Kara taught her about the gardens, showed her how to coax life from seeds. Old Torin shared stories of Shadowfang's history, painting pictures with words that made Raina feel connected to something ancient and enduring. And twice more, Kieran sought her out. Once to show her the Pax library, a room that made her gasp with delight at the sheer number of books. He spent an hour helping her find titles she might enjoy, his hand occasionally brushing hers as they reached for the same volume. Once to invite her to watch warriors train. She'd been nervous, expecting violence and aggression. Instead, she saw discipline, respect, warriors correcting each other's forms and offering encouragement. Kieran fought too, and watching him move was like watching water flow. Effortless power, brutal grace. He'd caught her staring and smiled, pleased at her attention. That night, alone in her rooms, Raina had to admit the truth to her wolf. "I'm in trouble," she thought. "Because you're falling for him? Because I'm falling for him, and I don't know if I should." "Why shouldn't we?" her wolf asked. "He's kind. He's strong. He respects us. He wants us. What more do we need? To be sure. To know this is real and not just desperation. We've been starved for kindness our whole life. How do I know I'm not just attaching to the first person who's nice to me?" Her wolf considered this. "Because you've met dozens of kind wolves here, and you're not falling for any of them. You're falling for him specifically. For his strength and his gentleness and the way he looks at us like we matter. That's not desperation. That's real." Raina wanted to argue, but her wolf was right. She was falling, and it terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. Chapter 5. The Challenge. 2 weeks into her stay, everything changed. Raina was in the healer's hall, grinding herbs with Vera, when Thorn burst through the door. "Where's Kieran?" the beta demanded. "Training grounds, last I heard," Vera said, setting down her mortar. "What's wrong?" "Ironclaw's here." Raina's head snapped up. "What?" "Your father arrived about an hour ago with a dozen warriors. He's demanding to see Kieran. Says there's been a misunderstanding about the alliance terms." Thorn's eyes were hard. "He looks pissed." "Shit," Vera muttered. She looked at Raina. "Did you know about this?" "No, I haven't heard from them since I left. I didn't think—" Raina's hands were shaking. "He's here for me, isn't he? He's here to take me back." "Over my dead body," Thorn said flatly. "But we need to handle this carefully. Come on, Kieran will want you there." "Me? Why?" "Because you're part of this, whether you like it or not, and because Kieran won't make decisions about you without you present." Thorn was already heading for the door. "Move." Raina followed on numb legs, Vera close behind. They found Kieran in the main hall, facing down her father. Alpha Garrett of Ironclaw looked exactly as she remembered, tall, broad, coldly furious. His dozen warriors flanked him, all in shifted form or ready to shift. The Shadowfang wolves present were fewer in number, but stood their ground, Ash and several others forming a loose protective circle around their alpha. "Unacceptable," her father was saying. "We had an agreement. You accepted my daughter as bride. That creates an alliance bond. You cannot simply—" "I can, and I did," Kieran interrupted, his voice calm but edged with steel. "I agreed to consider an alliance contingent on the marriage bond. After investigation, I determined Ironclaw doesn't meet Shadowfang's standards for alliance. The agreement is void." "You can't void an agreement after taking my daughter." "I didn't take anyone. Raina is here by choice. She's free to leave anytime she wants. She's a wolfless defect who doesn't understand. Careful! The single word dropped like a stone. Kieran took a step forward, and every Shadowfang wolf moved with him. I don't recommend finishing that sentence. Raina's father's eyes narrowed. Then he saw Raina entering with Thorn and Vera, and his expression hardened further. Raina, he said, get over here, now. The command in his voice was automatic, instinctive, and Raina felt her body respond. 18 years of conditioning screaming at her to obey. But before she could move, Kieran stepped directly into her father's line of sight, blocking his view of her. She doesn't take orders from you, he said softly. Not anymore. She's my daughter. She's a grown wolf who gets to make her own choices. And you, Kieran's voice dropped to something dangerous. You don't get to come into my territory and bark orders at anyone, least of all someone under my protection. Your protection, her father laughed, sharp and ugly. You think a wolfless girl needs protection? She's nothing. Less than nothing. The only value she has is as a bargaining chip, and you're squandering it. The hall went deadly silent. Raina felt the words like physical blows, old wounds ripping open, shame flooding through her. Then Kieran spoke, and his voice was glacial. Get out! Excuse me? Get out of my territory, now, before I forget the laws of hospitality and kill you where you stand. Her father drew himself up. You can't. I can, and I will. You came here under false pretenses. You've insulted a member of my pack. You've disrespected my authority in my own hall. Leave now, or leave in pieces. Your choice. The Shadowfang wolves pressed closer, a united wall of threat. Raina's father looked around, clearly calculating his odds. 12 warriors against 30. On hostile ground, with an alpha who looked ready to rip his throat out. Fine, he spat, but this isn't over. Ironclaw will remember this insult. Good. Maybe it'll teach you to treat your people better. Kieran jerked his head toward the door. Ash, escort them to the border. If they're not off our land by sunset, hunt them down. With pleasure, Alpha. Raina's father turned to leave, then paused. He looked directly at Raina, his expression cold. You've made your choice, he said. Don't bother coming home. You're no daughter of mine. The words should have hurt. Instead, Raina felt relief. Good, she heard herself say, her voice stronger than she expected. Because you were never a father to me. Her father's face flushed with rage. He opened his mouth. Out! Kieran snarled, and the command in his voice was absolute. The Ironclaw wolves left, Ash and several Shadowfang warriors herding them toward the border. As soon as they were gone, the tension in the hall broke. Wolves began talking in low voices, some angry, some relieved. Kieran turned to Raina, his expression gentled instantly. Are you all right? Raina's legs were shaking. I don't know. Thorn, clear the hall. Vera, can you... I've got her. Vera wrapped an arm around Raina's shoulders. Come on, sweetness. Let's get you somewhere quiet. But Raina shook her head. No, I need... She looked at Kieran. Can we talk? Please? He nodded immediately. My study. Come on. Minutes later, Raina sat in one of the comfortable chairs by Kieran's fire, a cup of tea she couldn't drink trembling in her hands. Kieran sat across from her, patient and watchful. I'm sorry, Raina finally said. For what? For bringing this to your doorstep. For creating problems with my father, for... Stop! Kieran leaned forward. You have nothing to apologize for. Your father's actions are his own. You're not responsible for his bigotry, or his failures as a parent. But the alliance? Fuck the alliance. I told you. I don't want an alliance built on the suffering of innocent wolves. I meant that. His eyes were fierce. And for the record, what he said about you was the most offensive thing I've heard in years. You're not nothing. You're not less than. You're a strong, capable wolf who's survived things that would have broken most people. Don't let his poison make you doubt that. Raina's eyes burned. You really believe that? With everything I am? Why? You barely know me. I know enough. I've watched you these past 2 weeks. I've seen you throw yourself into learning healing and strategy. I've seen you talk with pack members, making friends, finding your place. I've seen your kindness, your resilience, your quiet strength. He smiled slightly. And I've seen the way you light up when you figure something out. The way you listen when people talk to you like they matter. That tells me everything I need to know about your character. A tear escaped, trailing down her cheek. Raina wiped it away angrily. I'm sorry. I don't apologize for having feelings. Your father tried to condition that out of you, but feelings are what make us people. Kieran's voice was unbearably gentle. Cry if you need to. Rage if you need to. I'm not going anywhere. So Raina cried. She cried for the girl who'd been told she was worthless. For the 18 years of loneliness and abuse. For the family who'd never loved her. For the father who'd just disowned her without a flicker of regret. And Kieran sat with her through it, patient and steady, offering silent support. When the tears finally stopped, Raina felt hollowed out, but oddly lighter. Thank you, she whispered. Always. Kieran hesitated, then said carefully, I need to tell you something. What? Your father's visit. It's going to have consequences. Ironclaw will be angry. They might try to retaliate either politically or physically. I need you to be prepared for that. I understand, but there's something else. He met her eyes. Pack law is complicated. Your father publicly disowned you. In the eyes of pack tradition, you're now a lone wolf, not bound to any pack, not protected by any alpha. That makes you vulnerable. Raina's stomach clenched. What does that mean? It means legally, any wolf can challenge you for territory, resources, or status. It means you have no pack bond to protect you from aggression. He paused. Unless you accept protection from another pack. Shadowfang. Yes, but to be truly protected, you'd need to be formally accepted as pack. Which means... He trailed off. Which means the mate bond, Raina finished. If we complete the bond, I'm pack. I'm Luna. I'm protected. Yes. They stared at each other. So we have to decide, Raina said slowly. Now. Not in 2 more weeks. Not necessarily. I can declare you under my protection without the bond. It's not as strong legally, but it would give you some coverage until you decide. Kieran's expression was carefully neutral. But I want you to know, if you want the bond, I'll seal it today. If you want more time, I'll give it to you and damn the legal complications. Your choice, Raina. Always your choice. Her wolf was practically vibrating. Say yes. Say yes. We want this. We want him. But is that because we really want him? Or because we're afraid? Raina argued with herself. Does it matter? Her wolf shot back. We've spent 2 weeks here. We've seen him lead, seen him care for his pack, seen him treat us with respect and gentleness. We've watched him smile and fight and think. We've listened to him talk about his parents and his pack and his dreams. And every single day, we've fallen more in love with him. That's not fear. That's real. Raina closed her eyes, took a breath, opened them and met Kieran's storm-gray gaze. I want the bond, she said. Kieran went very still. Are you sure? I'm terrified, but yes, I'm sure. The words came easier now. I don't know if I love you yet. I don't know if my wolf feels the mate recognition yours does. But I know I want to try. I know I trust you. I know that when I imagine leaving, it hurts. And I know that staying here, building a life with you, being your mate, that's what I want. If you'll still have me. The smile that broke across Kieran's face was like dawn. If I'll have you, he repeated, half laughing. Raina, I've been half feral with wanting you since the moment I saw you. The only reason I've held back is because I wanted you to be sure. But if you're sure, I'm sure. He stood and moved to her chair, dropping to one knee so they were at eye level. "There's a ceremony, traditional. We'd do it tonight with the full pack as witnesses. Is that all right?" "What does it involve?" "Vows. A blood exchange to seal the bond. Then—" He paused, color rising in his cheeks. "Then, traditionally, we'd retire to our rooms to complete the mating bond physically, but that doesn't have to happen tonight. We can wait until you're ready." "And the blood exchange? What does that do?" "It creates a mental link between us. Not full pack bond, but intimate. We'll feel each other's emotions, be able to sense each other's location and well-being. It's permanent. Can't be undone except through breaking the bond entirely, which is... It's supposed to be agonizing, not something done lightly. Permanent. The word was terrifying and thrilling. "And if we do this, I'm Luna," Raina said. "What does that actually mean day to day?" "It means you're my equal in authority. You help lead the pack, settle disputes, make strategic decisions. You're the one wolves come to when they need help or guidance. It's work, real work, but you'd have support. Me, Thorn, Vera, Marcus, all of us would help you learn." He took her hand gently. "You wouldn't be alone in it. I promise." Raina looked at their joined hands. His was so much larger, scarred from battles she'd never seen. But his touch was careful, reverent. "Okay," she said. "Tonight. Let's do this." Kieran's hand tightened on hers. "I will spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret this choice." "I know," Raina said. And she did. Chapter 6. The Bonding Ceremony. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Vera whisked Raina away to prepare, insisting she needed proper clothes for the ceremony. "You're about to become Luna," she said firmly. "You'll look the part." The dress she produced was beautiful. Deep forest green, simple in design but clearly well made. It left her shoulders bare and fell to her ankles in soft folds. Not ornate, but elegant. The color made her dark hair and eyes stand out. "Perfect," Vera declared when Raina tried it on. "Now sit. I'm doing your hair." "You don't have to." "Hush. Let me do this. I haven't had a Luna to fuss over in years." Vera's hands were gentle as she brushed out Raina's long hair, braiding small sections and weaving them with thin leather cords. Kieran's mother used to wear her hair like this for ceremonies. I think she'd be happy to see another Luna wearing it. Raina's throat tightened. "You really think I can do this? Be Luna?" "I know you can." Vera met her eyes in the mirror. "You've got something special, Raina. A kind of quiet strength that people respond to. You listen. You care. You try. That's what makes a good Luna. Not power or dominance, but genuine care for the pack. And you have that in abundance." "I'm scared." "Good. Anyone who wasn't scared would be an idiot." Vera finished the braiding and stepped back. "There. Look." Raina looked in the mirror and barely recognized herself. The girl looking back wasn't the broken, hunched creature from Ironclaw. This girl stood straight. Her eyes were clear. Her face was framed by intricate braids that spoke of care and belonging. She looked beautiful. "Thank you," Raina whispered. "Thank you," Vera said. "For giving our Alpha a chance. For choosing us. Now come on. The pack is gathering." The ceremony took place in a large clearing at the heart of the settlement, lit by dozens of torches that cast dancing shadows. The entire pack had gathered. Hundreds of wolves in human form, all dressed in their finest, forming a massive circle around the central space. Raina stood at the edge of the clearing, her heart hammering. Thorn appeared beside her, also dressed formally in deep blue leather. "Ready?" the beta asked. "No, but I'm doing it anyway." Thorn grinned. "That's the spirit. Come on, Kieran's waiting." She led Raina through the crowd. Wolves parted 4 of them, and Raina heard whispers as she passed. "She's beautiful." "About time our Alpha found a mate." "Look how young she is. Think she can handle being Luna?" "Did you hear what her father said?" "Poor girl." "Kieran will take care of her. He always does." Then they emerged into the center of the circle, and Raina's breath caught. Kieran stood waiting, and he looked magnificent. He wore all black, leather pants and a fitted shirt that emphasized his warrior's build. His hair was unbound, falling to his shoulders. Torchlight cast sharp shadows across his face, making him look both dangerous and beautiful. When his eyes found her, they blazed with something fierce and possessive. Her wolf keened. Ours. That's ours. Thorn guided Raina to stand facing Kieran, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from him. "The pack is gathered," Thorn announced, her voice carrying across the clearing. "We come to witness the bonding of our Alpha, Kieran of Shadowfang, to Raina, who will become our Luna. Let all who have objections speak now, or hold their peace." Silence. Thorn nodded. "Then we proceed. Kieran, speak your vows." Kieran took Raina's hands, his grip warm and steady. His eyes never left hers as he spoke. "Raina, I vow to you my protection, my loyalty, and my strength. I vow to stand beside you, not above you. To honor your choices, to respect your voice, to cherish your heart. I vow to be your partner, your defender, your mate. In joy and in sorrow, in peace and in battle, I will be yours until my last breath." His voice was rough with emotion by the end. Thorn turned to Raina. "Now you." Raina swallowed hard. They'd given her traditional vows to memorize, but standing here, looking at Kieran, she found different words rising. "Kieran, I vow to you my trust, my courage, and my heart. I vow to learn with you, to grow with you, to build a life worth living. I vow to be honest, to be present, to be brave even when I'm afraid. I don't know all of what being Luna means yet, but I vow to learn, to try, to be worthy of the faith you've placed in me." Her voice shook slightly. "Until my last breath, I will be yours." Something blazed in Kieran's eyes. Pride and hunger, and something that might have been love. Thorn produced a ceremonial knife, its blade gleaming in the torchlight. "The blood exchange," she said. "To seal the bond." She held out the knife. Kieran took it, studied the blade for a moment, then drew it across his palm. Blood welled, dark against his skin. He offered the knife to Raina. She took it with shaking hands. The blade was sharp. She barely felt it as she drew it across her own palm. Blood bloomed, hot and red. "Join hands," Thorn instructed. "Palm to palm." Raina pressed her bleeding palm against Kieran's. The moment their blood mingled, something exploded through her. Heat and light, an overwhelming sensation. Kieran's mind touching hers, his emotions flooding the space between them. Desire and protectiveness and fierce, desperate hope. Her wolf surging forward finally able to touch her mate's wolf. The bond snapping into place like a key turning in a lock, permanent and perfect. Raina gasped, her knees buckling. Kieran caught her instantly, pulling her against his chest. "I've got you," his voice said in her mind, clear as crystal. "I've got you, love. Just breathe. Breathe," she gasped aloud. "Right, breathing is good." Laughter rippled through the watching pack. Kieran kept one arm around her waist, holding her steady while their joined hands remained clasped. Raina could feel him now, not just physically, but emotionally. His steady presence in the back of her mind, warm and protective. And underneath that, his wolf, massive and possessive, curled around her own smaller wolf like he was sheltering something precious. "Mate," his wolf rumbled. "Mine. Ours. Protect. Cherish. Keep." "Yes," her wolf agreed, practically purring. "Yes, to all of it." "The bond is sealed," Thorn announced, and her voice held satisfaction. "Raina is Luna of Shadowfang. All will show her respect and deference. All will come to her with troubles and trust her judgment. She speaks with the Alpha's authority. So it is witnessed. So it is done." The pack erupted in howls, human throats and wolf throats alike, the sound rising to the stars. It was primal and beautiful and overwhelming. Kieran turned Raina to face the pack, keeping her tucked against his side. "My mate," he said, and his voice carried pride and possession in equal measure. "You're Luna." More howls, wolves pressing forward to offer congratulations, their joy genuine and infectious. Raina felt like she was floating, caught between the bond humming in her mind and the pack's acceptance washing over her. "This is real," she thought dizzily. "I'm Luna. I'm his mate. This is actually happening." "This is happening," Kieran agreed through the bond, amusement coloring his mental voice. "And you're doing beautifully. But I think we should retire before you fall over." "I'm not going to fall over. You're swaying." She was, actually. Kieran scooped her up without warning, cradling her against his chest like she weighed nothing. "We're retiring for the night," he announced to the pack. "Feel free to celebrate without us." Cheers and laughter followed them as Kieran carried Raina through the crowd. "I can walk," she protested weakly. "Humor me. I just bonded to my mate. Let me be possessive and ridiculous for a moment." Through the bond, she felt his emotions clearly. Overwhelming relief that she'd said yes, fierce protectiveness, desire carefully banked but very present, and underneath it all, something tender, an aching. "What is that feeling?" she asked through the bond as he carried her toward the main hall. "What feeling?" "The tender one. Like your chest is full of something warm and fragile." He was quiet for a moment. "That's me falling in love with you. Has been since the moment you stood up to your father earlier. Watching you find your courage, your strength. It was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." Raina's breath caught. "You love me? Getting there fast. Give me another week and I'll be completely gone." His mental voice was wry. "Fair warning. I'm probably going to be insufferable about it. Thorne says I get sappy when I care about people. I don't mind sappy. Good, because you're stuck with me now." He carried her up the stairs and down a hallway she'd never been in before. At the end, he pushed open a door with his shoulder and carried her inside. The Alpha's rooms. Their rooms now. Raina looked around with wide eyes. The suite was enormous. A sitting area with a massive fireplace, a bedroom beyond with a bed that could fit 4 people easily, another door that probably led to a bathing room. Furs covered the floor. Candles had been lit, casting everything in warm, golden light. The windows looked out over the forest, and moonlight streamed through. It was beautiful, and intimate, and terrifying. Kieran set her down carefully, then stepped back, giving her space. "This is yours now, too," he said aloud. "You can change anything you want. Bring your things from your old rooms. Make it feel like home. It's already nicer than anywhere I've ever lived. Then we'll make it nicer still." He moved to a low table where wine and food had been set out. Someone, probably Vera, had prepared for them. "Are you hungry? Thirsty? The ceremony took a lot out of you. The bond settling can be draining." Now that he mentioned it, Raina was exhausted. And starving. Yes to both. They sat by the fire, and Kieran served her food and wine with his own hands. Through the bond, she could feel him fighting to remain calm and patient, when every instinct was screaming at him to pull her close, to complete the bond fully. "You can feel what I'm feeling," he said after a moment, not quite a question. "Yes, you're very controlled right now." A rough laugh. "I'm barely controlled. My wolf wants to claim you about 6 different ways. But I meant what I said. We go at your pace. If all we do tonight is sleep, I'm fine with that." "And if I want more?" His eyes darkened. "Then you'll get more. As much as you want, however you want it." Heat coiled low in Raina's belly. She'd never felt desire before. Not like this. Not with her wolf singing in agreement, and the bond making every nerve aware of the male sitting across from her. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Not of you, just of not knowing what to do, of disappointing you." "You couldn't disappoint me if you tried." Kieran set down his wine cup and moved to sit beside her, close, but not touching. But here's what we'll do. We'll take it slow. I'll follow your lead. If anything feels wrong or too much or uncomfortable, you say stop, and I stop immediately. No questions, no pressure, no disappointment. Understand? What if I want to stop in the middle? Then we stop in the middle. The bond is sealed. The physical mating isn't required for it to be valid. We can wait days, weeks, months if you need. There's no rush. The patient sincerity in his voice echoed through the bond, made Raina's decision easier. I don't want to wait, she said softly. I'm scared, but I trust you. And I want this. Want you. Kieran's control cracked just slightly. His hand came up to cup her face, thumb brushing her cheekbone. You're sure? Yes. Then let me... He stopped, swallowed. Let me show you how it should be. Let me worship you the way you deserve. And he kissed her. It was soft at first, almost reverent. His lips gentle against hers, giving her time to adjust, to learn the shape of his mouth. Raina's eyes fluttered closed. She'd never been kissed before, hadn't even imagined someone would want to kiss her. But this was... perfect. Kieran pulled back slightly, studying her face. Okay? More than okay. He smiled and kissed her again, deeper this time. His hand slid into her hair, cradling her head, while his other arm wrapped around her waist, drawing her closer. Raina made a small sound, surprise and pleasure mixed, and felt answering heat spike through the bond from him. You're so beautiful, he thought to her. So perfect. Mine. Yours, she agreed. The kiss grew heated. Kieran's tongue traced her lower lip, requesting entrance, and when she opened for him, the taste of him flooded her senses. Wine and male and something uniquely Kieran that made her wolf preen. His hands were everywhere, her hair, her back, her waist, but always gentle, always checking through the bond that she was okay, and she was more than okay. She was melting, need rising in her that she'd never felt before. When he finally pulled back, they were both breathing hard. Bed, Kieran said roughly. We should move to the bed. More comfortable. He stood and offered his hand. Raina took it and let him lead her to the bedroom. The bed was enormous, covered in soft furs and pillows. Moonlight spilled across it, mixing with the candlelight. Kieran turned to face her, and she saw the effort it took him to stay controlled. Through the bond, she felt his need, his desire, his wolf clawing to claim her. But he kept it leashed, kept himself gentle. Can I undress you? He asked. Raina nodded, not trusting her voice. His hands went to the laces at the back of her dress, working them loose with surprising deftness. The fabric loosened, slipped down her shoulders. Raina caught it instinctively, suddenly shy. Hey, Kieran's voice was soft. You're beautiful. Every part of you. Don't hide from me. I'm not beautiful. I'm too thin, too plain, nothing special. Stop. His mental voice was firm. I can feel what you're thinking, and you're wrong. You're exquisite. And even if you weren't, I'd want you just as much because of who you are, not what you look like. Trust me, Raina. Let me see you. Slowly, she let the dress fall. She stood in just her thin undergarments, feeling exposed and vulnerable. Kieran sucked in a breath. Gods, he whispered. You're perfect. Through the bond, she felt his absolute sincerity. He truly thought she was beautiful. Your turn, she said, surprising herself with her boldness. A slow smile crossed his face. He reached back and pulled his shirt over his head in one smooth motion. Raina's breath left her lungs. She'd seen him shirtless before, training with the warriors, but that had been from a distance. This was close enough to touch, close enough to see every detail. His body was a map of violence survived, scars layered over muscle, proof of a life spent fighting and protecting. But he was beautiful too, in a harsh, masculine way that made her wolf whine with approval. "Can I touch you?" she asked. "Please." She stepped forward and placed her hand on his chest, feeling the steady thunder of his heart beneath her palm. His skin was warm, slightly rough with old scars. She traced one particularly vicious scar that ran from his collarbone to his ribs. "Rival pack," he murmured. 3 years ago. Could have killed me if I'd been a fraction slower." "I'm glad you weren't." "Me too." His hand covered hers, pressing it flat against his heart. "Especially now." They stood like that for a moment, just touching, just feeling each other through the bond. The intimacy of it was almost overwhelming. Then Kieran bent and kissed her again, and this time there was less control, more need. His arms banded around her, lifting her against him. Raina wrapped her legs around his waist instinctively, and he carried her to the bed, laying her down on the furs like she was something precious. "Last chance," he said, hovering over her. "If you want to stop, tell me now, before I lose what's left of my control." "Don't stop," Raina whispered. "Please don't stop." His eyes blazed. "Then hold on to me, love, because I'm going to make you mine in every way that matters." And he did. Much later, they lay tangled together in the moonlight, skin against skin, the bond between them singing with completion. Raina felt utterly claimed and utterly cherished in equal measure. Kieran had been patient and careful and worshipful, bringing her pleasure she hadn't known was possible, making her feel beautiful and wanted, and his in the best possible way. Now he held her close, one hand stroking her hair while the other traced idle patterns on her back. "How are you?" he asked through the bond, his mental voice tender. "I'm overwhelmed. In a good way." She pressed closer. "That was perfect. You were perfect." He kissed her forehead. "We were perfect. Your control is terrifying, by the way. I could feel how much you were holding back. I didn't want to scare you. First times should be gentle, a pause. Next time I won't need to be quite so careful. If you want a next time." Raina laughed softly. "I definitely want a next time. Maybe in about an hour once I can move again." His chest rumbled with amusement. "An hour works. Gives me time to recover, too. You're more addictive than I expected." They lay in comfortable silence for a while. Through the bond, Raina felt Kieran's contentment, his satisfaction, his wolf finally settled and purring with possession. "What are you thinking?" she asked. "That I'm the luckiest male alive? That you're mine? That I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret choosing me?" His arms tightened around her. "What are you thinking? That for the first time in my life, I feel like I belong somewhere. Like I matter." Her throat tightened. "Like I'm home. You are home." His voice was fierce. "This is your home. I'm your home. Shadowfang is your home. And anyone who tries to make you feel otherwise will answer to me." Raina tilted her head back to look at him. His gray eyes were soft in the moonlight, full of promises and tenderness. "I love you," she whispered aloud, surprising herself. Kieran went very still. "Say that again." "I love you. I know it's fast. I know we've only known each other 2 weeks, but I feel it. I love you." The smile that broke across his face was incandescent. "I love you too," he said. "Gods, Raina, I love you so much it terrifies me." He kissed her again, deep and slow and claiming. And through the bond, Raina felt the truth of his words, the depth of his feeling, the absolute certainty that this was real and right and forever. "Forever," her wolf agreed contentedly. "This is forever." For the first time in her life, Raina wasn't afraid of forever. She was looking forward to it. Chapter 7. The combat trial. The next 3 weeks passed in a blur of happiness. Raina settled into her role as Luna with surprising ease. Kieran was right. It was work, but it was fulfilling work. She helped settle disputes between pack members, managed resource distribution with Marcus's guidance, worked alongside Vera in the healer's hall. The pack accepted her readily, coming to her with problems and trusting her judgment. And every night she fell asleep in Kieran's arms, the bond between them growing stronger. But peace, she learned, was often temporary. It was Thorn who brought the news, bursting into Kieran's study where he and Raina were reviewing Border Patrol reports. "We have a problem," the beta said without preamble. Kieran looked up sharply. "What kind of problem?" "Ironclaw kind. Your father," she looked at Raina, "has been spreading word that Shadowfang stole you, that we broke pack law by taking an unwilling bride, and that you're being held against your will." Raina's stomach dropped. "That's not true. We know that, but other packs don't. And it's creating complications." Thorn's expression was grim. 3 allied packs have asked for clarification. They want proof that you're here willingly, that the bond is legitimate. "What kind of proof?" Kieran asked, his voice dangerously quiet. "The traditional kind. A combat trial." Silence fell like a stone. "Absolutely not," Kieran said flatly. "We don't have a choice," Thorn argued. "If we refuse, it looks like we're hiding something. Like Garrett's accusations might be true. We could lose our alliances, maybe even face sanctions. I don't care. I'm not putting Raina in danger to satisfy political bullshit." "Kieran, no." He stood, his alpha presence flooding the room. "Find another way." "There is no other way." Thorn's frustration bled through. Pack law is clear. When a bonding is challenged, the Luna must prove herself through combat. It's tradition. Fuck tradition. "What's a combat trial?" Raina asked quietly. Both wolves turned to look at her. Kieran's expression was stormy. Thorn's was sympathetic. "It's an old tradition," Thorn explained. "When a Luna's position is challenged, she fights a combat trial to prove her worth. Usually against another wolf of similar rank. She doesn't have to win, just show courage and skill. It's about demonstrating that she's worthy of the position, that she chose it willingly. And if I refuse, then the challenge stands. Other packs will assume Garrett was right, that you're here against your will. Shadow Fang's reputation suffers. Our alliances fracture." Thorn's voice gentled. "I'm sorry, Raina. I know this isn't fair." Raina looked at Kieran. Through the bond, she felt his rage and fear warring for dominance. He was terrified of losing her, of seeing her hurt, of putting her in danger. "I have to do this," she thought to him. "No. We'll find another way. There is no other way. You heard Thorn." She stood and moved to him, placing her hand on his chest. "I'm not helpless, Kieran. You've been training me these past weeks. Vera's been teaching me to fight. I'm not the broken girl who arrived here. I'm stronger now, not strong enough for this. Then help me get stronger." She met his eyes. "I'm Luna. This is my responsibility. Let me handle it." He stared at her for a long moment, conflict clear in his expression. Then he closed his eyes and pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. "Fine," he said roughly. "But I'm training you personally. And if anything goes wrong, I'm calling it off. I don't care about the political consequences." "Agreed." Thorn cleared her throat. "The trial is set for the next full moon. That gives us 4 weeks to prepare. I'll handle the political maneuvering. You two focus on training." After she left, Kieran and Raina stood in silence for a long moment. "I could kill your father for this," Kieran finally said. "Get in line." He laughed despite himself. "My fierce Luna, when did you get so brave?" "When I found something worth fighting for." The training was brutal. Kieran didn't hold back. Every morning before dawn, he dragged Raina to the training grounds and put her through exercises that left her trembling and sweat-soaked. He taught her to fight in human form, how to dodge, how to strike, how to use her smaller size as an advantage. He was relentless and patient in equal measure, correcting her form, pushing her limits, building her strength. "Again," he'd say when she fell. "Get up. Again." And she'd get up. Every time. Vera worked on her flexibility and endurance. Marcus taught her strategy, how to read an opponent, how to predict movement, how to turn weakness into strength. Thorn drilled her on pack law and combat etiquette. "You're not trying to kill your opponent," she explained. "You're trying to prove you're worthy, fight with honor, show courage, and know when to yield. That's what matters." The weeks blurred together. Raina's body changed. She gained muscle, lost the soft roundness of someone who'd never trained. Her movements became more confident, her reactions faster. And through it all, Kieran was there, training her, supporting her, holding her when the fear threatened to overwhelm her. "You're ready," he told her the night before the trial. They lay in bed, her body tucked against his. "I'm terrified." "Good. Fear keeps you sharp. But you're ready, Raina. I've seen you fight. You're strong, you're smart, and you're brave. You're going to be magnificent. What if I'm not? What if I fail?" "You won't." His certainty flooded through the bond. "But even if you did, even if you lost, it wouldn't change how I feel about you. You'd still be my mate, my Luna, my love. The trial doesn't determine your worth. Only you determine that." She turned in his arms to face him. "Promise me something. Anything. Promise that if something goes wrong, you won't do anything stupid. Don't challenge my opponent. Don't break pack law. Don't sacrifice Shadowfang's position for me." His jaw tightened. "I can't promise that. Kieran, if you're seriously hurt, I'll burn down every pack between here and the coast. I'll break every law ever written. I'll do whatever it takes to protect you." His eyes were fierce. "You're my mate, my responsibility, my love. Don't ask me to stand by and watch you suffer. I'm asking you to trust me, to believe I can handle this. I do trust you, but that doesn't mean I'll sit idle if you're in danger." They stared at each other, neither willing to yield. Finally, Raina sighed. "Fine, but at least wait to see how the fight goes before you start burning things down. Deal." He kissed her forehead. "Now sleep. You need to be rested." But Raina couldn't sleep. She lay in Kieran's arms, feeling his steady heartbeat, and tried not to think about what tomorrow would bring. The trial took place at noon in the same clearing where they'd held the bonding ceremony, but this time the atmosphere was different. Tense, formal. Representatives from 3 allied packs had arrived to witness, grizzled alphas and betas who watched with sharp, assessing eyes. The pack formed a circle, just as they had for the bonding, but this circle felt like a cage. Raina stood at the edge, dressed in fighting leathers that Vera had prepared. Her hair was braided back tight. She carried no weapons. This would be hand-to-hand combat only. Kieran stood beside her, his presence a steady anchor. Through the bond, she felt his fear and pride warring for dominance. "I'm with you," he thought to her. "Every step." "I know." Thorn stepped into the center of the circle. "We gather to witness a combat trial," she announced. "Raina, Luna of Shadowfang, has been challenged to prove her worthiness. She will face Kara of the Riverside Pack in single combat. The trial ends when one fighter yields or is unable to continue. Let all witness and judge fairly." A wolf stepped forward from the crowd of visitors. Raina's heart sank. Kara was huge, easily 6 inches taller than Raina and heavily muscled. She looked like she could break Raina in half without effort. Scars covered her arms and face, proof of countless battles. When she smiled, it was all teeth. "Nothing personal, little Luna," Kara said, her voice carrying across the clearing. "But I've been fighting for 20 years. This'll be over quick." "We'll see," Raina said, proud that her voice didn't shake. Thorn looked at both fighters. "Ready?" Raina nodded. Kara grinned. "Begin!" Kara charged immediately, no preamble, no testing, just pure aggression. Raina dodged at the last second exactly as Kieran had trained her. "Use your size. Be faster. Don't try to match strength. You'll lose. Kara's fist whistled through empty air. She spun, surprisingly quick for her size, and came at Raina again. The next few minutes were a blur of motion. Dodge, duck, weave. Raina couldn't land hits. Kara was too experienced, too well defended, but she avoided most of the strikes. The ones that connected were glancing blows, painful, but not debilitating. The crowd was silent, watching. She's testing you, Kieran's voice in her mind. Seeing how you move, change tactics, be unpredictable. Raina feinted left, then dove right, finally getting inside Kara's guard. She struck hard at the larger woman's ribs, not enough to do real damage, but enough to show she could hit back. Kara grunted in surprise. Not bad, little Luna. Let's see how you handle this. She grabbed for Raina, and this time she was fast enough to connect. Her hand closed on Raina's arm, yanked her forward. Raina found herself in a grapple, Kara's superior strength immediately apparent. Don't panic, she told herself. Think. What did Kieran teach you? She dropped her weight suddenly, using Kara's own momentum against her. The larger woman stumbled. Raina twisted free, rolling away. But Kara recovered fast. Too fast. Her kick caught Raina in the ribs, sending her sprawling. Pain exploded through her chest. Through the bond, she felt Kieran's barely restrained rage. I'm okay, she thought to him desperately. Don't interfere. I'm okay. She forced herself to her feet. Kara was watching her with new respect. You're tougher than you look. Most wolves would stay down after that hit. I'm not most wolves. No, Kara agreed. You're not. They circled each other. Raina's ribs screamed with every breath, but she kept her guard up, kept moving. This time when Kara attacked, Raina was ready. She'd been watching, learning the woman's patterns. Kara favored her right side, left herself slightly open on the left when she threw certain punches. Raina waited for the opening. When it came, she struck, fast and hard, catching Kara in the throat with the edge of her hand. Not enough to seriously hurt, but enough to make breathing difficult for a moment. Kara staggered back, one hand at her throat, eyes wide with shock. The crowd erupted in surprised murmurs. That's my girl, Kieran thought fiercely. Now finish it. But Kara recovered too quickly, and now she looked angry. Clever, she rasped. Let's see how clever you are with broken bones. She came at Raina like a storm, fast, brutal, overwhelming. Raina blocked what she could, dodged what she couldn't, but some hits got through. Her shoulder, her thigh, her jaw. She tasted blood. The world was narrowing to pain and motion and desperate defense. You're losing, some part of her mind observed clinically. She's too strong, too experienced. You can't win this. So don't try to win, another part answered. Just survive. Show courage. That's all you need. But Raina was tired of just surviving. She'd spent 18 years surviving, enduring, accepting. She wanted to win. Kara grabbed her again, and this time Raina didn't try to escape. Instead, she drove her knee up hard into the woman's stomach. Once, twice. Kara's grip loosened. Raina twisted, using every ounce of her strength, and somehow managed to throw the larger woman. Kara hit the continue 4:03 p.m. ground hard. Silence fell like snow. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then Kara started laughing. Deep, genuine laughter. Well, shit, she said, still on the ground. Little Luna's got teeth. She stood slowly, dusting herself off. Looked at Raina. Really looked, assessing. Then she bowed her head. I yield. The crowd erupted. Raina stood frozen, unable to process what had just happened. Did I win? You won, Kieran's voice was fierce with pride. You magnificent, fierce, incredible woman. You won. Thorne stepped forward, her scarred face split with a grin. The trial is complete. Raina, Luna of Shadowfang, has proven her worth. Let all witness, let all accept. The visiting alphas stood. One by one, they bowed their heads in acknowledgement. Shadowfang's Luna has our respect, the eldest said. The challenge is answered. We will spread word that she is here by choice, that the bond is legitimate. Then Kieran was there, pulling Raina into his arms despite pack protocol, despite the watching witnesses. You did it, he whispered against her hair. Gods, Raina, you were incredible. I can't believe I won, she said, her voice shaking. She was so much stronger. But you were smarter, braver, and you didn't give up. He pulled back to look at her, his eyes blazing with love and pride. That's what makes you worthy. Not winning. The courage to keep fighting even when you were outmatched. Kara approached, still grinning. Hell of a fight, Luna. You've got spirit. Your pack is lucky to have you. She held out her hand. Raina took it, and they clasped forearms in the warrior's grip. Thank you, Raina said, for not holding back, for treating me like a real opponent. You earned it. Any wolf who survives 20 minutes against me has my respect. Kara released her arm. You're going to make a fine Luna, Raina. Don't let anyone tell you different. As the crowd began to disperse, as the visiting packs prepared to leave with news of Raina's victory, Kieran kept his arm around her, holding her close. How do you feel? He asked through the bond. Sore, exhausted, terrified of what comes next. And she thought about it, about standing in that circle, facing down a warrior twice her size, about finding the courage to keep fighting even when every instinct screamed at her to yield, about winning not through strength, but through determination and strategy and sheer refusal to give up. Proud, she finally answered. I feel proud. Good. You should be. His mental voice was warm. Now come on. Vera's going to want to check you over, and then I'm putting you in a hot bath and not letting you leave our rooms for at least a day. That sounds perfect. They walked back toward the hall together, Raina leaning on Kieran for support. Her body ached everywhere, but her heart felt lighter than it had in years. She'd proven herself, not just to the watching packs, or to Kieran, or to Shadowfang. To herself, she was worthy. She was strong. She was Luna. And no one, not her father, not Kara, not anyone, could ever take that away from her. Chapter 8. Wounds and Healing. 3 months passed. Raina settled fully into her role as Luna, and the pack flourished under her and Kieran's joint leadership. Word of her combat trial spread through the region, and with it came respect. Other packs began reaching out, seeking alliances, asking for counsel. Shadowfang's influence grew. But for Raina, the greatest change was internal. She'd found her place, not just in the pack, but in herself. She worked with Vera in the healer's hall, her gentle touch and patient nature making her a natural. She strategized with Marcus, her mind sharp and creative when solving problems. She trained with the warriors, no longer the weakest but holding her own. And every night she fell asleep in Kieran's arms, the bond between them deeper than she'd ever imagined possible. Her wolf, once so small and silent, had grown confident. Not in size, Raina still couldn't shift, likely never would, but in presence. Her wolf's voice was clear and strong in her mind now, a constant companion rather than a frightened whisper. We did it, her wolf would say sometimes, with wonder. We're actually happy. We are, Raina would agree. But happiness, she learned, was complicated by the past. It was a cold morning in late autumn when the messenger arrived. Raina was in the healer's hall, teaching a young wolf how to properly clean and dress wounds, when Thorn appeared in the doorway. Raina, Kieran needs you in his study. Now. The beta's expression was carefully neutral, but through the bond, Raina felt Kieran's roiling emotions, anger, protectiveness, and something that might have been pity. What's wrong? Raina asked, already moving. Just come. She found Kieran standing by the window of his study, his posture rigid. A stranger stood near the door, a young male wolf she didn't recognize, wearing Ironclaw colors. Raina's stomach dropped. "What's going on?" she asked carefully. Kieran turned to face her. "This is Owen. He's a messenger from Ironclaw." His jaw was tight. "Your father wants to meet with you." The room tilted slightly. "What?" "He's asking, not demanding, asking, if you'd be willing to meet with him. Alone, to talk." Kieran's eyes were stormy. "I told the messenger absolutely not, that I won't allow you anywhere near that bastard, but Thorne pointed out that it's your choice to make, not mine." Raina looked at the messenger. Owen appeared uncomfortable, shifting his weight from foot to foot. "Why?" she asked him. "Why does he want to meet?" "I don't know, Luna. He didn't tell me." Owen's voice was respectful, but he seemed different. Older, tired. "He said he had things he needed to say to you, and he understood if you refused. He said he wouldn't blame you." Through the bond, Raina felt Kieran's barely controlled fury. "Don't do this. Don't give him the satisfaction. He doesn't deserve your time or your forgiveness." "I'm not going to forgive him," Raina thought back. "But maybe I need to hear what he has to say. For closure. Or he'll just hurt you again. Then you'll be there to help me heal. Like always." She moved to him, placed her hand on his chest. "I want to meet with him, but not alone." "You'll be there?" "Damn right I'll be there." Kieran's voice was rough. "And if he says one wrong word, one cruel thing, I'm ending the meeting." "Agreed." She turned to Owen. "Tell Alpha Garrett I'll meet with him. Tomorrow at noon, here, in Shadowfang territory. He comes alone, unarmed, and he has 1 hour. Those are my terms." Owen bowed. "I'll relay the message, Luna." After he left, Kieran pulled Raina into his arms. "You don't have to do this," he said quietly. "You don't owe him anything." "I know, but I need to hear what he wants to say. Otherwise, I'll always wonder." She looked up at him. "I'm not the same girl he sent away. I'm not afraid of him anymore. And maybe he needs to see that." "You're braver than I am. If it were me, I'd refuse. Or challenge him to combat and beat him bloody. The combat option is still available if the meeting goes badly." He laughed despite himself, then kissed her forehead. "I love you, and I'm so proud of you it hurts." "I love you, too." That night, Raina couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, feeling Kieran's steady presence beside her, and tried to prepare herself for seeing her father again. "What if he apologizes?" her wolf asked. "What if he's actually sorry? Then I'll listen. But that doesn't mean I have to forgive him. What if he's not sorry? What if he's cruel again? Then we walk away, and we never look back." Her wolf settled, reassured. When sleep finally came, Raina dreamed of the clearing where she'd been told she was worthless. But in the dream, she stood tall and unafraid, and when her dream father spoke his cruel words, they bounced off her like rain off stone. She woke feeling centered, ready. Her father arrived precisely at noon. Raina watched from the window of Kieran's study as Alpha Garrett approached the hall. He came alone, as promised, wearing simple traveling clothes rather than formal Alpha regalia. And Owen had been right. He looked older, grayer, more worn. "Ready?" Kieran asked, coming to stand beside her. "As I'll ever be." They went down to meet him together. Garrett stood in the main hall, looking around with an expression Raina couldn't quite read. When he saw her descending the stairs, something flickered across his face. Surprise, perhaps, or recognition of how much she'd changed. She had changed. She wore Luna's colors now, deep green and silver. Her hair was braided in the style of Shadowfang's leadership. She stood straight, her hand resting comfortably on Kieran's arm. She looked like what she was. A Luna. A leader. Someone who mattered. "Raina," her father said, and his voice was quieter than she remembered. "Alpha Garrett." She kept her tone formal, neutral. "You wanted to speak with me. I'm listening. He glanced at Kieran. I hoped we might speak privately. No, Kieran said flatly. Whatever you have to say, you can say it in front of me. I'm her mate, her alpha, and I don't trust you alone with her for a second. Garrett's jaw tightened, but he nodded. Fair enough. He turned his attention back to Raina. You look well. Different. I am different. I can see that. He was silent for a moment, clearly struggling with words. I wanted to tell you that I was wrong. About how I treated you, about what I said to you, both as a child and when you left. It was cruel, unjust. You didn't deserve any of it. Raina's chest tightened. She'd expected many things, but not this. Why now? She asked. Why are you saying this now, after 18 years? Because I've had time to think, to see what I became, to understand what I lost. He rubbed his face tiredly. After you left, your mother and I argued. She said things, true things, about how we'd treated you, about how wrong we were. It didn't change anything immediately. I was still angry, still convinced you were an embarrassment. That's not an apology, Kieran said coldly. Let him finish, Raina said quietly. Garrett nodded gratefully. Then I heard about your combat trial, about how you faced down Kara and won, how you became Luna, how the pack respects you, how you've thrived here. His eyes were bright with something that might have been tears, and I realized I'd spent 18 years telling you that you were worthless, when the truth was that I was the worthless one. A good father would have protected you, supported you, loved you. I did none of those things, and I can never undo that damage. No, Raina agreed. You can't. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know that I was wrong, that you were never the problem. I was. You were strong and brave and good, and I was too blind to see it. He swallowed hard. I'm proud of what you've become. I have no right to be, but I am. And I'm sorry. For everything. Silence fell. Raina studied her father's face, looking for deception or manipulation. She found only regret. Genuine, aching regret. Through the bond, she felt Kieran's anger slowly cooling, replaced by cautious observation. He was letting her lead, trusting her judgment. Thank you for saying that, Raina finally said. It means something. Not enough to erase the past, but something. I know. I'm not ready to forgive you. I may never be ready. What you did, what you and Mother did, damaged me in ways I'm still healing from. You stole my childhood. You made me believe I was worthless. You sent me away like I was nothing. Her voice remained steady despite the emotions churning inside her. So no, I'm not ready to welcome you back into my life with open arms. I understand. But, she continued, I appreciate you coming here. I appreciate your honesty. And maybe someday, if you continue to do the work of becoming a better person, we can have some kind of relationship. Not what we should have had, but something. Hope flickered in Garrett's eyes. I'd like that, even if it takes years. Even if all I ever get is occasional civil conversation. I'd like that. Kieran stirred beside her. If you hurt her again in any way, I will end you. Politically, physically, I don't care. Are we clear? Crystal. Garrett met the younger Alpha's eyes. For what it's worth, I'm glad she found you. Glad she found a pack that values her properly. You're a better Alpha than I ever was. I know, Kieran said without arrogance. Just fact. Raina almost smiled. Is that all you wanted to say? She asked her father. One more thing. Garrett reached into his coat and pulled out a small wooden box. This was your grandmother's, my mother's. She died before you were born, but she would have loved you, would have seen your worth immediately. I think she'd want you to have it. He held out the box. After a moment's hesitation, Raina took it. Inside was a delicate silver necklace with a small wolf pendant. Simple, but beautiful. She wore it every day, Garrett said quietly. Said it reminded her that strength comes in many forms, that the quietest wolves are often the bravest. Raina's throat tightened. She lifted the necklace out, feeling its weight. "Thank you," she said. "I'll treasure it." Garrett nodded. "I should go. I've taken enough of your time." He started toward the door, then paused. "Raina? I know I don't have the right to ask, but are you happy?" She looked at Kieran, at the hall around them, at the life she'd built. "Yes," she said simply. "I'm happy." "Good." He smiled, sad and genuine. "That's good." Then he was gone, walking back across Shadowfang territory toward the border. Raina stood in the hall, holding her grandmother's necklace, feeling the weight of the conversation settle over her. "How do you feel?" Kieran asked softly. Confused, sad, angry, relieved, all of it at once. She looked up at him. He sounded genuine. "Do you think he meant it?" "Honestly? Yes. Wolves can smell lies, and I didn't detect any." He seemed truly remorseful. Kieran's expression was complicated. "That doesn't mean you have to forgive him. Regret doesn't undo harm." "I know, but it's something. A crack in the wall, maybe. Not reconciliation, but acknowledgement. And if he's lying, if this is some kind of manipulation, then we'll deal with it. Together." She leaned into him. "But I don't think he is. I think he finally saw himself clearly and didn't like what he saw. That's not the same as being a good father, but it's a start." Kieran wrapped his arms around her. "You're remarkably generous." "I'm practical. Holding on to hatred hurts me more than it hurts him. This way, I can let go of some of the anger. Not all of it. Not yet. But some." She held up the necklace. "Will you put this on me?" He took it gently, fastened it around her neck. The pendant settled just above her heart, cool against her skin. "It suits you," he said. "The quietest wolves are often the bravest." She was right. "I'm not quiet anymore." "No, you're not." He smiled. "You're fierce and strong and you speak your mind. But you're still brave. That hasn't changed." They stood together in the empty hall, holding each other, letting the moment settle. "How do you really feel?" Kieran asked through the bond. "Like maybe I can finally close that chapter of my life," Raina thought back. "Not with a happy ending, but with an ending. And that's enough." "More than enough," he agreed. "You're free now. Truly free." And she was. The girl who'd been told she was worthless was gone. In her place stood a Luna who knew her value. Epilogue. 1 year later, the spring dawn was cold but beautiful, painting Shadowfang territory in shades of gold and rose. Raina stood at the window of their rooms, one hand resting on the gentle swell of her belly, watching the pack begin to wake. Smoke rose from chimneys. Warriors headed for the training grounds. In the gardens, Kara and her team were already at work, coaxing new life from the soil. Strong arms wrapped around her from behind, Kieran's warmth pressing against her back. "You're up early," he murmured, his voice still rough with sleep. "Couldn't sleep. The baby's been active." His hand covered hers on her belly, and through the bond, she felt his surge of love and protectiveness. "How is our little fighter this morning?" "Restless. Takes after their father." "Impossible. They're clearly taking after their mother, stubborn and brave, and refusing to do what's expected." Raina laughed, leaning back against him. "We still need to pick a name." "I know, but we have time." He kissed her neck. "How are you feeling about today?" Today, the anniversary of her arrival in Shadowfang. 1 year ago, she'd ridden into this territory as a frightened girl who believed she was nothing. Now she stood as Luna, pregnant with the next generation of Shadowfang, loved and valued and home. "I feel grateful," she said honestly, "for everything. For you, for the pack, for this life we've built. I'm the grateful one. You've transformed this pack, Raina, made us stronger, kinder, better, and you've transformed me." His arms tightened around her. "I was so angry before you came, so focused on duty and protection, that I'd forgotten how to actually live. You taught me that again. We taught each other." They stood together, watching the sunrise paint their territory in light. A knock came at the door. Vera's voice called out, "Are you two decent? I'm coming in either way, so I hope you're wearing clothes." Kieran groaned. "She has the worst timing. She has medical supplies and knows things about pregnancy that we don't. Be nice." Vera entered, carrying her healer's bag and a knowing smile. "Good morning, lovebirds. How's the little one?" "Active," Raina said. "Good sign. Active babies are healthy babies." Vera set down her bag and began her examination, checking Raina's vitals, feeling the shape and position of the baby, asking detailed questions about symptoms. "Everything looks perfect," she finally declared. "You're healthy, the baby's healthy, and you've got about 3 more months before you meet your little fighter. Kieran, you're doing well too. Your stress levels are only moderately catastrophic instead of completely catastrophic." "I'm not stressed," Kieran protested. Both women looked at him. "All right, I'm slightly stressed. There's a lot that could go wrong with childbirth." "Which is why you have me," Vera interrupted. "And an entire pack of wolves ready to help. Raina will be fine. The baby will be fine. You will probably have a nervous breakdown, but we'll handle that when it happens." Raina tried not to laugh at Kieran's offended expression. After Vera left, they dressed and headed down to the main hall for breakfast. The pack was gathering as they did every morning. Warriors and healers, crafters and strategists, young and old, all coming together to share a meal and plan the day. As Raina entered, conversations quieted. Then someone started clapping. Another joined in. Within moments, the entire hall was applauding. "What's happening?" Raina whispered to Kieran. "They're celebrating you. 1 year as Luna. 1 year of your leadership." He smiled. This was Thorne's idea. She wanted to mark the occasion. The beta stepped forward, grinning. 1 year ago today, a frightened girl arrived in Shadowfang. We all wondered if she'd make it, if she'd stay, if she'd survive becoming Luna. Turns out we were asking the wrong questions. We should have been asking if we were worthy of her." Laughter and agreement rippled through the pack. "Raina," Thorne continued, "you've been fierce and kind, strong and gentle, brave and humble. You've healed wolves who were sick, counseled those who were troubled, trained with warriors, strategized with Marcus, and made every single member of this pack feel valued. That's what a Luna should be. And we are honored, all of us, to call you ours." The applause grew louder. Raina's eyes burned with tears. Through the bond, she felt Kieran's fierce pride and love. "Thank you," she said, her voice carrying across the hall. "When I came here, I didn't know if I could be Luna. I didn't know if I could be anything. You all showed me that I could. You gave me a chance, trusted me, taught me. This pack, this family, saved me in every way a person can be saved. So thank you, for accepting me, for seeing me, for making me believe I was worth something." "You were always worth something," Marcus called out from his seat. "We just helped you realize it." More agreement, more warmth flooding through the pack bond. Kieran pulled her close and kissed her in front of everyone. A claiming, possessive kiss that made some of the younger wolves whistle and cheer. When he pulled back, his eyes were bright. "Mine," he said, quiet enough that only she could hear. "My mate, my Luna, my love." "Yours," she agreed. "Always yours." They ate breakfast together, the pack loud and joyful around them. Plans were made for the day, patrols assigned, training scheduled, disputes settled, the normal work of pack life. But throughout it all, Raina felt the thread of belonging that connected her to each wolf present. Not just through the pack bond, but through genuine care and mutual respect. She'd found her place. She'd found her strength. She'd found herself. After breakfast, she and Kieran walked through the settlement together. They passed the training grounds where young warriors practiced, the gardens where flowers were beginning to bloom, the healer's hall where Vera was already at work. "Do you ever miss it?" Kieran asked suddenly. "Ironclaw?" Raina thought about it honestly. "No, but sometimes I miss the version of my family that I wish I'd had. Does that make sense?" "Perfect sense. I heard from my father last week," she said. "He sent a letter, congratulating us on the baby, asking if he could visit, maybe in a few months, if I was comfortable with it." Kieran's hand tightened on hers. "What did you say?" "I said maybe, that I'd think about it." She looked up at him. "He's been sending letters regularly, just checking in, not asking for anything, telling me about changes he's making in Ironclaw, better treatment for Omegas, consequences for bullying, trying to build the kind of pack he should have built years ago." "Do you believe he's sincere?" "I think he's trying. That's not the same as forgiveness, but it's something. And I think if he meets our child someday, I want them to meet a grandfather who's learned from his mistakes, not the man who hurt me. And if he disappoints you again, then he never gets another chance. But I won't know unless I try." She stopped walking and turned to face him fully. "You taught me that. To try. To be brave even when I'm afraid. I'm choosing to try with him." Kieran cupped her face in his hands. "You're the strongest person I've ever met. You know that?" "I'm not. You are. You've survived things that would have broken most wolves. You've built a life from nothing. You've become a leader when you were told you were worthless. And now, you're choosing to be generous to someone who doesn't deserve it, because you're just that good." He kissed her forehead. "I'm in awe of you every single day." Raina felt her heart swell. "I love you." "I love you too. So much it terrifies me sometimes." They continued walking, hand in hand, talking about small things. What to name the baby. Whether to expand the gardens. Which warriors were ready for promotion. The everyday concerns of pack leadership. But underneath it all, Raina felt the certainty that had been building for a year. She was home. She was loved. She was exactly where she was meant to be. That night, lying in bed with Kieran's hand resting on her belly, and his wolf curled protectively around her in the bond, Raina thought back to the frightened girl who'd arrived in Shadowfang. "We made it," she thought to her wolf. "We did better than make it," her wolf answered. "We thrived. We became who we were always meant to be." "Who's that?" "Strong, brave, loved, free." Raina smiled in the darkness. Her wolf was right. She'd spent 18 years being told she was nothing. But she'd spent the last year proving that she was everything. Luna, mate, healer, leader, friend, and soon, mother. She was all of these things and more. And she was finally, completely gloriously happy. "Thank you," she thought to Kieran, even though he was asleep, "for seeing me, for choosing me, for loving me." Through the bond, even in sleep, she felt his response, wordless but clear. "Always. Forever. Mine. Yours," she agreed. "Always yours." And in the quiet of the night, surrounded by pack and purpose and love, Raina closed her eyes and dreamed of the future. A future full of possibility. A future she'd earned. A future that was entirely, beautifully hers. The end.